Yes, yes, y'all. Pardon me. We are back. Another week, another Saturday night shoot the breeze. I want to thank everyone who is in attendance already, the one or two of you who are here. I want to thank everyone who will be in attendance, both on the panel and in the chat. And of course, I want to thank those of you who will be tuning in to the playback. Thank you all for your participation. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to share the episode on your social media. I mean, come on. You must have friends and family who will be interested in some of the conversations that we have. So share that with them. And also the Shoot the Breeze Clips channel. I'm kind of behind on clipping up some of the recent episodes. Not kind of, I am. But you can share the clips when they hit that channel as well. Let's include more people in these conversations, you know. With that said, let me tell you what we have in store tonight. One of our topics is going to ask, would George Floyd have survived if we had a migrant mentality? Another topic tonight says, I thought we don't give up our African religions. What changed? This is about a particular story that I did not like it when I read it a few weeks ago. There's another prompt that asks the question, disgraceful Black kings or righteous human rights defenders? We have a prompt here that asks, but can Black men get any kind of credit? And lastly, we're going to discuss Sheikh Anta Diop being Muslim, and questions of spirituality and culture. So we're going to discuss those tonight. I kind of stumbled my way through all of those because I was trying to give context to the prompt, which I shouldn't have tried to do. But anyway, that's what we have in store tonight. On the other side of the intro, I'll drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1, as well as welcome in any and all of our panelists tonight. So do stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where Black problems are addressed with Black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Make sure you're also tuned in to Brother Bakari's show. I have to mute Oni's mic. Make sure you tune in to Brother Bakari, considerate Cheek, also known as Rem in the Bush. And make sure you tune into the Forecast radio as well. So make sure you guys are tuned in to all of those shows here on KWAZ radio. Gonna be doing something musically soon too. So look out for that too. In the meantime, let me welcome in my panelists. Let's welcome in Buana. Buana, how are you this week?
Cool. Can you hear me? 1 2 1
Yes,
2.
sir. Yes, sir.
Great. I'm good, brothers. I'm good, man. I'm feeling good. You know, I hope everyone is good on your side, Oni, and you too, Koku. Let's get it.
Appreciate that. Thanks for coming through. Oni, how are you this week?
I'm pissed. I was supposed to be in Africa, but you imagine they stopped me at the airport because my son's passport expired in 5 months, and it got to be a minimum 6 months. So that's a warning for travelers. If your passport is gonna expire in less than 6 months, you can't travel. You can't travel internationally. Apparently,
That sucks.
Yeah, I know. Shit, they didn't get my refund. So yeah, I got one of them non-refundable tickets and shit. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Damn! I'm trying to hear that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm good about that one. Woo!
I know, right? That's just money I lost for no damn reason, and it was motherfucking $120 to get to the damn airport and back. Shit. But anyway, yeah. So I'm pissed.
Hey, Oni.
You're right. People don't know, man. This airport run out here is a good $50 to get to the airport here.
Yeah.
Hey, Oni.
Yeah.
Oni, just raise the prices. Raise the prices in Tanzania for your products. You know, make the Tanzanians pay for it.
Shit. Yeah. I might as well, man. I just go. You know, that's how you're supposed to do it. You don't absorb the expenses. You give it to the other people. You know what I'm
saying? I know. Coco would get pissed off at that one.
Why would Coco get pissed off at that? Why?
Yeah, you want everything fair across.
Yeah. Before we get into it, that's one of the problems. Like in New York here, like if you go to buy Caribbean food, since I've been living up here, Caribbean food has probably quadrupled in price, whereas Chinese food has probably doubled in price. And
the reason is you're not paying for the food, you're paying for the rent space. You're paying for the rent. And the Chinese usually either they own them buildings or their cousin them own them buildings. So you paying rent on the cost of food. That's why it's costing so much. Go to the ghetto ass areas where the Caribbean places are, and I promise you, you're gonna be paying less in cost because you're not paying for rent in them. Well, the rent is not as high in them areas. I promise you.
You gotta pay for the health insurance, the health, for the medical expenses when you get shot down there.
Right. When I get shot in my ass, then I'll have to pay the hospital bill for that. But yeah, that's the thing, and a part of it is, honestly too, is because the Chinese and them, they have refrigerated storage and stuff like that. They buy in bulk, store it up, and pay the overhead together as a group, or as a group of individual businesses. But the Caribbean joints ain't doing that, so they pass the buck off. So you go in most of these Caribbean places now to get like a dinner, $21, $22 and up. You know what I mean? And that wasn't the case before. But anyway, I digress. Thank you guys for joining.
He just bragging about his salary, man. Balling, I made $25. Like, ain't nobody paying that shit.
Yo, how much party costs, Koku? How much party costs?
Patty must be like $3 now.
$3?
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah, party's about $3. Party's about $3 now. With all of that said, thank you guys for coming through on the panel. Thank you guys who are in the chat. I see the matron is out there. Shout out to the matron doing her readings. This past week, reading John Henry Clark about Marcus Garvey. So check that out. Afro Native World is out there. Trigger Happy 262 Plus says peace. Of course, Daily Affirmations by Pauline, my homegirl. She's out there saying good evening as well. So thank all of you who are here tonight. Let's just get into it, I guess. Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 tonight. Would George Floyd have survived if he had a migrant mentality? I thought this was an interesting prompt. So let me share my screen so you guys can see the attachment. Yeah, so this comes with the video. We'll watch it. It's pretty short. We'll watch it, and afterwards we'll comment.
5 suspects in this brutal attack on NYPD officers have been released without bail, arrested and released.
The attack happened near a migrant shelter in Times Square. Fox 5's Lisette Nunez is there. And Lisette, it took a few days for this video to surface, but it is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to watch. It's horrific, and police did put that video out. And shortly after putting that video out, as well as pictures of the suspects, well, they were able to make additional arrests. Let's go ahead and take a look at that video. So this happened around 8:30 in the evening on Saturday. According to police officers, they were trying to break up a group that was acting disorderly near Times Square. Police tried to take one person into custody, and that's when things took a turn and the group began attacking the officers. The group is seen kicking and punching the 2 officers at the scene. Police initially arrested 4 people and then a 5th person on Monday. They face charges including assault on a police officer, gang assault, and disorderly conduct. According to the New York Post, those who were arrested and charged are migrants who were then released without bail. As far as the officers who were attacked, they did have minor injuries. They were treated at the scene, but they are expected to be okay. I also got off the phone with police this morning. They tell me one of the individuals who was arrested, he's being identified as 24-year-old Yorman Reverend, who is facing robbery charges from a few other incidents that happened the last 2 months. That's the latest here in Times Square. We'll send things back inside.
Okay, thanks so much, Lisette. 5 suspects in this brutal attack.
I want to play that one more again. I think it's an important thing to tune into. So one more. It's only a minute and a half. So one more time.
Attack on NYPD officers have been released without bail, arrested and released.
The attack happened near a migrant shelter in Times Square. Fox 5's Lisette Nunez is there. And Lisette, it took a few days for this video to surface, but it is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to watch. It's horrific, and police did put that video out. And shortly after putting that video out, as well as pictures of the suspects, well, they were able to make additional arrests. Let's go ahead and take a look at that video. So this happened around 8:30 in the evening on Saturday. According to police officers, they were trying to break up a group that was acting disorderly near Times Square. Police tried to take one person into custody, and that's when things took a turn and the group began attacking the officers. The group is seen kicking and punching the 2 officers at the scene. Police initially arrested 4 people and then a 5th person on Monday. They face charges including assault on a police officer, gang assault, and disorderly conduct. According to the New York Post, those who were arrested and charged are migrants who were then released without bail. As far as the officers who were attacked, they did have minor injuries. They were treated at the scene, but they are expected to be okay. I also got off the phone with police this morning. They tell me one of the individuals who was arrested, he's being identified as 24-year-old Yorman Reverend, who is facing robbery charges from a few other incidents that happened the last 2 months. That's the latest here in Times Square. We'll send
All right. Very interesting stuff. Black Steelers out there in the chat. He says, I love it. By the way, Afro Native World says that in the DMV area, in a lot of places, patties go for $3.50 to $4. You know, that's the crazy thing with the DMV area. You'll go to some Jamaican, some Caribbean spots out in the DMV, and the food just isn't as good as what you find in New York. And plus, you have to drive a distance to go get it too. It sucks. But I digress. Should we topic number 1? Would George Floyd have survived if he had a migrant mentality? Very interesting question. Oni, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, unequivocally, yes. You know what I'm saying? like, you know, the somebody told me a long time ago, one of the things that we do with the police is we cooperate. We cooperate with the police. And what I mean is that the police can jump through your fence. We open the door if they say they have a warrant, whatever. When they're buzzing through traffic, we get out of the way, and when they are choking a man on the floor in plain sight, and the man is pleading, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And, all we do is shout, hey, you're killing him. That's it. I didn't get to watch the video. I mean, not that I didn't get to, I didn't want to watch the video of this man taking his last breaths, but I know that there was a little girl recording him dying. For what it's worth, a little girl, she probably can't, do much. Either way, the reality is these white boys do what they do because they know they're not going to face any consequences from you. And what happened with these migrants is they said, look, you're going to face some consequences. Don't come at us like we like we just going to sit there and take it. I don't really like the thing think about the Palestinian genocide going on, right? That you got to say what you will. There's this video of this new weapon that Israel is testing out, and I think it's like a armored vehicle with a sniper gun on top, right? And that's some bad shit. They used it, and they used it on this guy, and basically shot his leg off. Okay, and it was bad and all that stuff. But their justification for using it on this guy was that he threw a rock at them. Now obviously, in disproportionate response, obviously, right? But the thing you got to give the guy credit for is he threw a rock at them. How often, like we are, when you go to the hood, when you go to that area where you get some cheap, Jamaican food or whatever, right? Or cheap soul food, right? When you go in those areas, right? They have, it's a police, like it's a, what do you call it? Police, something like that. But you like heavy surveillance police. I don't know. Police state. It's a police state.
Police state.
Yeah. It's a police state. And thanks for the telepathy, man. Right? He was just police state. All right. But it's a police state in the sense of, police on every other block, but we not doing shit to them. They just stationed inside of our area, getting overtime, getting paid good money. And then harassing us on the streets. Like I was walking through that area one time, Brownsville, and the police, he shouted something at me. Now, obviously, he was making a little joke, a little light talk, whatever. But even so, they just feel like they own the place because you don't challenge them. And I'm telling you, I didn't see the man lose his life, George Floyd lose his life. But that dude, I think it was Chauvin or something like that. He choked Floyd, and he just looked at everybody like, "What are you gonna fucking do? Y'all don't do shit. We come in your neighborhood, we kill your people for nothing, and y'all ain't gonna do shit." So yeah, what the police tried to do with this little migrant situation was, pretty much just handle it, take care of, beat up one of these kids and right in front of his friends. They was like, nah, we don't play that. Just like I said, say what you will about the Palestinians, and they're getting slaughtered, obviously. But what they do is they stand up for their land anyway. And these migrants, maybe in some respect, this is their land, they Native Americans and shit, right? But in other respect, it's not even their land and they still fighting. We got no excuse. But this white boy knows. He knows what's up. That's all I'm going to say.
Only I agree with everything you said just now. I do want to ask you one question before you go. What do you attribute is the reason why these cops didn't shoot these guys?
Why the cops didn't shoot them? Well, I don't know. They say statistically the gunshots ain't that common. I don't know. Let me see. Why they didn't shoot these guys? Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't, I can't tell why cops did it. I don't even know what's going on. You mean why they ain't just pull out it looks like they're just struggling right now. I don't know when they would have got a chance to shoot them, unless you're saying shoot them in the back or some shit. Because they do that to some brothers, but I as far as cops being trigger happy and shit, why trigger happy got that name? But as far as cops being trigger happy, usually I see them usually do it when they have the gun in their hand. It looks like these dudes was trying to just wrestle these guys, and then they thing. But like they say that, you know, police shootings is a little bit more warmed up, or maybe if like you know, one of them trigger happy officers. But I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. You know?
I appreciate that. Only Juan, it's on you. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I find it interesting that none of the migrants pull out their cell phone and start filming it. They're like, well, we don't get time to film. You know, Pablo and Carlos is like, we don't get time to film what's going on. We need to get involved in this because we don't want little Juan to get abused and mistreated. You know, so they get themselves into it. And it's just interesting because they didn't stand by because they have not been conditioned yet. They have not been conditioned yet. It's part of the American social order, which basically says that, you know, if you see these kinds of things going on, you must pretend as if it's not happening to you. You know, you just, you know, pretend.
Buana, volume is kind of low.
Can you hear me now?
It's still low.
I don't know what's up with these earphones, man, but you can hear me now. Yeah. So I think that they've not been conditioned yet. They've not been conditioned yet by the American social order that says that you should ignore when a police officer is completely abusing their citizens. You know, they've not lived in America long enough yet even to have an iPhone. So they ain't gonna have an iPhone to take it out to film it. They're gonna get in it. You know, and it's good that the police should know that you are dealing with another character of people here. You know, they're not going to stand by. You know, they're going to get involved. They're going to involve themselves into certain activities if they feel threatened. And if the police officers had pulled out their guns, that could have been a riot. How much bullets you get in a revolver, Oni? Or maybe like what, 9 bullets? What's that crowd gonna do? What's that crowd of migrants gonna do to you after you then shoot up in the crowd? They're gonna kill you. You know what I mean? If that's your last resort, you in problems. You in big problems, big time. So I think that they're gonna have to find alternative ways in dealing with people who don't play the game. They've not been conditioned yet. You know, and I say bravo to these guys in trying to defend themselves and whatever was going on here. If this guy was a criminal, you know, what they doing their jobs, I understand that. But you're not gonna pull a George Floyd on these characters. They don't have that kind of energy for that and time for that. You're not gonna do that. You're not gonna do that. You know, so find another way. Find another way. You know, but like I say, man, if this would happen in the George Floyd situation, I don't think that George Floyd would have died. Even if someone threw a bottle at Chauvin and ran, you know, throw a bottle and run. What could you be charged for if you throw a bottle and run? You can't be charged for murder because nobody knows where the bottle came from. You know, do something besides filming it. But needless to say, like I say, man, salute to the migrants in doing what they did to keep their fellow migrant alive and healthy, I guess. You know, but that's what I have to say about this.
You know, Buana makes a good point there too. And it reminds me of something that I had learned some years ago. In other parts of the world, folks actually tussle with the police, man. Folks actually get into fist fights and hand-to-hand, you know, whatever with police. Like, I remember a friend of mine, a guy I used to know, he passed away now, but he's from Grenada. And he told me how there's a fight with the police all the time. I'll have tussles with the police and stuff like that. And so it's a reminder that, you know, in other places, the police is something different too. And I think what Buana said, that the conditioning hasn't set in yet, I think that's absolutely true with Black America, is that there's a conditioning that the police will shoot you and kill you. And so people move a certain way, you know, with that kind of knowledge. So I appreciate y'all's
Coco, if the police is gonna shoot you anyway, and you carrying a gun, what's the difference? It's a situation where it's him or me. You know, the law don't factor in that scenario. You know, it's what they say. What they say? It's better to be carried by. It's better to be carried by 6. It's better to be judged by 12 than quick carried by 6. So if he have a gun and I have a gun, what does it matter? What does it matter? You know, and usually he have a revolver and I get something bigger than him. So I mean, I don't know. It just depends on the situation, I guess.
No, I think you kind of touched on the crux of it. It's the conditioning. You know, folks have been conditioned. Like I said, what police mean here is like take Colombia for example. When the police raiding the dealers and stuff like that, they have to cover their face and all kind of stuff because they know if someone get wind that you was in that crew, your family is gone. It's a different thing. It's a different thing here, I think. I know the matron commented in the chat. You guys can drop your comments, but Athrazer said they're migrants. They don't have to go to work tomorrow, and they just escaped hell. Jail isn't a big deal to them. So that's his take on it. You guys drop your takes in the chat. Black Steel wants to know where they're from. No, I wasn't too sure where they were from, but it seems like that Central America direction. Matron says they didn't get shot because they have the complexion for protection. So in that statement, if I'm reading that right, Matron even kind of thinks that had they been black kids doing that, they would have been shot. African of the World says, yeah, the slums go to war with police in Colombia, Brazil. Yeah, it's a different, and in parts of the Caribbean too, it's different. It's a different thing. Tragapi 260 says it's a lot of factors, but surveillance is a lot more improved and enhanced in the first world than other places. Doesn't mean the police isn't dangerous in other parts of the world. I'm not giving police a pass and saying, oh, they're less dangerous per se, but you're right, because of the circumstances of those areas, right? Technology and whatnot, you could do a little bit more, I guess. Only you want to add something?
Yeah, the police usually pick on people smaller than them. You know what I mean? So I don't know if you escalate the situation, like pulling out a gun in that situation, like what Barnum was saying, like they might pull out their guns. You know what I mean? And one thing about these white boys is that, one, they don't like being outnumbered, and two, they don't like dying. You know what I mean? I'm not saying anybody like dying, but they don't like dying. So, like let's say you pull out a gun and you got six, migrants around you. I'm not saying anything like migrants like a bad thing. I'm just saying six young people and they got guns. You're dead. You know what I mean? Like they clearly have some objective to stop you from arresting whomever. But if you're a police officer in that situation and you already got shocked. You know what I mean? You already got shocked because wait, somebody's standing up to me? You know what I'm saying? Like I thought I was the big bad. I thought they taught you in school, to cower in my presence. They didn't teach you that. And so I think usually because the police don't pick on biker gangs either. They obviously don't pick on, like the Italian gangsters type stuff. The police tend to watch themselves. Like a lot of times we hear, oh, they shot another unarmed black man. But it's like, yeah, if you're an unarmed black man, you're more likely to get shot than if you're an armed black man. You know what I mean? Police more likely to pull a gun out because you gotta one thing we gotta realize is the police try not to deal with armed people. You know what I mean? They send in the SWAT team for that. You know what I mean? If you heavily armed, the police don't try to engage you. They try to do the SWAT. You know what I'm saying? They try to call in for backup. So yeah, in this kind of situation, I mean, obviously, maybe it is the complexion of protection. Maybe it is that, oh, they not whatever. But on the other hand, it's like they already shocked and surprised that anybody's standing up to them. You know what I mean? And so, because usually they used to just outnumbering a dude and taking him in and everybody else just sitting by, taking pictures, So once people don't do that, they're obviously like, wait, I don't know how to handle this situation. It's not in the training manual. Usually I'm dealing with, BANs. You know what I mean? And now, I'm dealing with, like other men. You know what I'm saying? Of course, they're probably boys, but I'm just saying. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I agree. Bonnie, want to add any last thoughts here?
No, you said Oni said something important. Oni said that you learn in school not to resist. You learn in school to just allow certain things to happen to you. Well, these guys didn't go to their school. They didn't go to the same school. They went to Spanish school. Yeah, high school in South America. So they missed those classes. So when they see someone is being mistreated, their natural response, their natural human response is to defend someone who I know is being mistreated. Their natural response. They have not been taught or conditioned against that kind of philosophy and thinking yet. So I think that's what you're saying here. This is a natural response. If I see someone who's mistreated, when I saw George Floyd getting mistreated, anyone who's watching that, Koku, anyone who's watching that, their natural inclination is, why isn't somebody trying to come to this man aid and rescue? I mean, do something. Do something. Besides, to me, taking out a cellular phone and filming something is an unnatural response. You know, I would want to walk up to me and say, bro, you know, you're killing the man. You're killing him. You know, if he don't want to stop, do so. Intervene in some way as opposed to just filming it. Now, I understand in an American context, the filming is used as evidence. So later, when they're in a courtroom, this person, in their minds, is going to be prosecuted for the harm done to the individual. But how many times have we seen it actually happen? In the courtroom, the same injustice happening in the street is going to happen in the courtroom. So street justice have to come into play. But that's a whole other conversation. But I'll just leave it there. I'll leave it there.
I appreciate that. Bakari's in the chat. He says, peace and black power. He says, if we use our mind to organize, stop being scared. I agree with all of that. Bakari says, don't blame school. What are you being taught at home? Stop looking for excuses, black men. Stand up and be an African warrior. I guess that's a good way to end that prompt. Let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 2. I appreciate everyone who's here tonight. Thanks to Brother Bakari for passing through. Thanks for Afro Native World, Trigger Happy, Black Steel, Matron, Daily Aspirations by Pauline. Thanks to all of you who came through tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 says, I thought we don't give up our religions. What happened? So this came with a link that's taking us. Let me share my screen with you guys. Okay. So this should take us to Twitter. Taking a minute to load for some reason. So on Twitter, why is it taking so long to load? Okay. Maybe there's an issue. Damn it. All right, bear with me 1 second. I'm gonna have to go on Discord and see if I could find this. You know what? I'm not gonna take up all that time to try to find it. What I'll do is this. I'm gonna bring another topic in quickly. It's a topic I should have put up. I should have put up tonight anyway. So I'll just pivot and I'll drop another topic for tonight. So Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 is going to be Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 is going to be big up to Hidia, a real warrior who fought real people's struggles and did so bravely. This came with a link that'll take us to YouTube. Let me grab it. We're going to watch this video and we'll discuss it after.
I'm Hidia, and I have AIDS.
Activist Hidia Broadbent has died.
Her father, Lorne, announced the sad news on social media, saying in part, despite facing numerous challenges throughout her life, Hydea remained determined to spread hope and positivity through education around HIV/AIDS.
Being a part of the first generation of children who were born with AIDS, research really saved my life.
Broadbent was left at birth at a Nevada hospital before she was adopted by Lauren and Patricia Broadbent. Doctors at the time said she had a life expectancy of only 5 years. She made the world cry when, as a 6-year-old, she explained her desires to basketball star Magic Johnson.
I want people to know that we're just normal people.
Oh, you don't have to cry. Because we are normal people, okay? We are.
The two continued to advocate for HIV and AIDS education together. HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, attacks the body's immune system. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the virus can progress into AIDS if left untreated. Wise beyond her years, an 11-year-old Hydea told Oprah Winfrey in 1996 why she remained optimistic.
No one really knows how long anybody's gonna live because I don't tell myself like, oh, you have AIDS, or I could go outside and get hit by a bus tomorrow. And you never know. If you stay in your bed and feel sorry for yourself and don't get up with the birds and just sit there and say, well, I'm gonna die, why get up and try and make a difference? Mm-hmm. But when you say, well, today's another day, I can get up, I can do something, make something positive.
Through speaking engagements and her own foundation, Broadbent spent her youth and teen years advocating for HIV and AIDS education and research.
And hopefully to see a generation of no more children being born with AIDS, that's my personal life's goal.
Broadbent spent her life fighting stigma while spreading knowledge and love. Hydea Broadbent was 39 years old.
Yeah, Trigger Happy 262 says he can find the video and we can do it maybe next time. I don't remember it being your prompt, but if you can find the video, that'll be great. I appreciate it. So should be topic number 2. Big up to Hydea, a real warrior who fought real people's struggles and did so bravely. I remember her interview on that Magic Johnson thing. I remember that clearly. In fact, I remember when Magic Johnson himself announced he had HIV. I was a big at the time I was a Lakers fan, and that tore me up a bit to see that. And then it happened again when I saw her, a small child like that talking to Magic. Sad stuff. In the chat, Black Steel says, y'all can't be showing me shit like this. My heart. Yeah, it's a tough one, but you know what? We gotta honor the young sister too. Only what say you?
Yeah, this is why people be atheists though, because why are you gonna show me this fine sister and she got AIDS? You know what I'm saying? Except for that last photo, I'm not gonna hold you. That was the last photo, the second last photo. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Was this sarcastic? Big up to the real warrior. That sucks. That she. But what she died from? Like, did she die from AIDS or did she die from something else? I'm confused about that. But it's nice that, like, I kind of like that these days. It's kind of like what they did with COVID. But like these days, it's not like a death sentence to get AIDS. You know what I mean? And not just that. Like the same with COVID, like when things come out, and that's why I say about when things come new, and even Machiavelli was saying this, but like loud and fast things scare people. You know what I mean? Like when the police get rushed, they're scared. Like that's your instinct to be scared if you don't know what's going on, right? AIDS comes, people are scared. You were born with AIDS, oh man, you're gonna die at 5 years old, and then she makes 39. And I'm not saying 39 is a late age to pass away. Because it's not, obviously, it's still young, but it's not that young. You know what I mean? 5 is young. 39 is, you know, it's a decently long life, you know. Um, I mean, not long, but you know, it's a decent time length for a lifetime. So yeah, I think what the sister did. I mean, I didn't watch her. I didn't know who she was until like she passed, right? Um, but as far, I mean, I can't tell if she died from AIDS or not. It doesn't. It's not really clear if she did. But you know, it's good that people can live longer with the disease. You know, it's just a matter of, you know, you yourself personally not trying to catch it. You know what I mean? Like, notwithstanding the technological leaps, you still got to avoid that like it's the plague or something, you know? Because, yeah, even though it's not a killer, it's a killer, you know? So, you know, shout out to the sister for, you know, participating in that education system. Oh, and I guess the other thing I should say is that some people are of the belief that AIDS was or HIV was created in a lab or something, you know, and they you know, a lot of people kind of like furnish proof and patents and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if it were, and I know that even Ramani suspected it was, right? I don't know if it was or not. Um, but that's, you know, if it were, that kind of tells you like who you're dealing with, you know, and this lady would just be a casualty of that attempt on our people. You know what I mean? Like she would just be a casualty on that attempt on our people. Uh, but another thing too is that allegedly, and there's another thing too is people don't know about HIV. They say it's not necessarily easy to catch from somebody who has HIV, even without medication, all that shit. But if you do, you do the if you go the wrong hole, you know what I'm saying? If you take the back door, you know, you're more likely to get it from somebody who has it. So you know, that's another thing. Now, obviously, men, wrap it up. You know, for two reasons. Obviously, one, you don't want to catch a disease, and two, you might not want to have a kid at that moment. You know, and but I also want to say, and that's why I was saying, I think earlier today, we got to stop with this free sex. You know, I don't want to say premarital sex, but like we got to stop at this loose sexual morals that we're having as a people. Now I know y'all saying, wait a second, Oni, aren't you? Yeah, sure. But you know, like I said, I started reading that my eye and I realized that, I mean, again, I think that we have to have, you know, looser sexual morals than, you know, ancient people, because ancient people had better structures for, you know, vetting relationships. But at the same time, it's like you got to see sex for what it is. You know, sure, it's recreation and procreation, but you also got to see it as, hey, this is something I should do with the woman I'm trying to be with in a family. You know what I mean? Black Steel. What is Black Steel saying? But anyway, that's about it. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, by the way, I have been talking about we got to tighten up on some of this shit. The same stuff you're talking about. We have to tighten up on that. It's obvious we needed to tighten up on that stuff. But I digress. As far as this thing with Heidi and what Oni was saying a second ago, it's this HIV/AIDS thing is different, I believe, for the people who were coming of age when this shit dropped. So, you know, the folks who are around 50, give or take a couple of years, kind of was in the mix of this shit, coming of age and, you know, not knowing what was true, what was false. There was a time when people literally thought you could catch that shit off of a toilet seat, if you shared a toilet seat and all that kind of stuff. But like Oni said, there's more research now, and it's very surprising when you look at the numbers of how this disease is transmitted. In terms of like straight up sexual intercourse, it's like real low, like I want to say like 0.04, 0.004, something like that. Like it's real low. Like Oni suggested, the Bagdoria stuff that multiplies it by 3 times or something like that. But you know, mostly it's really like a blood thing, like an intravenous drug use thing, which is kind of wild. But back in the day, when that white boy died, what's his name? I can't think of the guy. The white boy who died, he was an actor. And when he died, that thing went into a frenzy. Then Magic came and announced he had HIV. So it's different for those of you who came after it and those who came maybe long before it, but it's something for those who are coming of age during that time. Let's welcome in Black Steel this week. Black Steel, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Had a fight back a tear there seeing that poor child. She actually had the same name as my oldest, so
wow.
Yeah, spelled differently. But yeah, it's I know she was born with it. I don't know if she inherited from her mother, but I do know that, like you were saying, Coke. I think it was Robert Redford. I think who died from I forgot.
No, it wasn't Redford. No, it wasn't Redford.
Anyways, I know you're talking about because it was a shock because back then nobody knew what HIV was. Nobody knew what AIDS was, and this was very deliberate.
It was Rock Hudson.
Rock Hudson, thank you. One of them crackers, but it was there was not a lot of information about it, and the truth be told, it was especially during the early '80s when Ronald Reagan was president. He just basically described it as a disease that affected mostly gay people. Like patient zero, a white man named Gaten Dukas was a homosexual man. And they didn't really care if it was affecting gay people or black people. They didn't care about the transmissions or how it was done. So there was really no information that was given out. Had Hadia been born, in 2000s, if her mother had been pregnant with HIV, there are drugs to where she could have been born without the virus. But back then, people didn't really know, and they didn't really care, because ultimately it didn't really start affecting people till, like you said, Rock Hudson got sick. The lead singer from Queen, he got sick. Freddie Mercury got AIDS. Once it started affecting, rich white men who were engaging in homosexual sex, then it was a problem. But before then, they didn't care. A black child like Hadia gets it from her birth. And, it's such a tragedy. She did live a long life for somebody who had HIV, especially coming when she got it back in the 80s. That they didn't expect people to live long with HIV. And not only that, but the stigma that came with that, And, her tears really broke me down because she didn't ask for this. She didn't sign up for AIDS. It wasn't like she was engaging in any risky behaviors. She just happened to be born. Maybe her mother was on drugs. Maybe she had a family member who was on the shit. We don't know. But she didn't sign up for it, but she still managed to persevere through, and it is a tragedy that she lost her life at such a young age. But I'm glad that she was able to, speak out about it. Was a very important issue because at the time nobody gave a fuck about HIV because it was the people who were dying were black people or gay people. They didn't give a fuck about them. So this world is a lesser place now that she's gone. But I'm glad that wherever she's at now, she doesn't have to suffer anymore, take all those medications. People who are HIV positive take a cocktail of drugs every morning. It's crazy the amount of drugs they take to be able to function in life. And she lived with that for almost 40 years. That is impressive. I'm sorry she didn't, give a chance to live a full life, whether she wanted to, some things she just couldn't experience because her disease that she had no part in getting. So I just, I can't see that picture of that baby crying no more, man. I'll leave it alone. But good topic, man. And I said it for fuck's sake because I only was talking about how pretty she was. Man, stop thinking with your little head, man. God damn. It's not the time to think about that shit.
Yeah, so I want to address this. So for all human beings, in a long enough timeline, all our survival rates drop to zero. In a long enough timeline, her survival rate was earlier than ours, but eventually we will go the way of Miss Hadia Broadbent. All of us, all human beings, right now, who listening to me right now, what this sister is showing us is not the fact that you've been dealt bad cards. It's just what you do with the cards you've been dealt. And she's been able to live her life in a purposeful way. She didn't ask. I remember this interview in 1996, by the way. I remember this very clearly. And I remember her name after all these years. after all these years. So when I saw it again, I was godsmacked at the fact that she had passed, because she was living a purposeful life. She was carrying out the message of awareness, because awareness is important. Some people think the AIDS crisis has been solved. When you're looking at our numbers, in particular with Black women, the numbers are still high. Some of our community suffers in silence in regards to some certain things because they are ashamed of having these kinds of diseases and things. Like sickness is something in our community is carried in a very hush hush manner. So for her to carry this stigma loudly, you know what I mean, and to carry this message of bringing awareness to the fact that hey, there is an issue here. You know what I mean? Pay attention. There's an issue here. I think she did a yeoman's job of it, and she was tasked with this purpose at a very early age. Many people couldn't, and at a time when there was very harsh social stigmas attached to this disease. And I think that she carried this message bravely. Black Steel said, imagine, if you will, having to take so much medication just to be functioning on a day-to-day basis. That is a warrior. People talk about being a warrior. This is real, being a real warrior. Being a real warrior, fighting the fight of life and having the will to do it on a day after day after day basis. People don't talk about these real stories that actually exist within our community. My sister, one of my homegirls who I dated, she suffered from full-blown sickle cells. That's another killer in our community, by the way, sickle cells anemia. And to see her struggle and to see her having to take morphine and going in and out of hospitals and things like that, I'm thinking to myself, if I had this kind of disease, would I have lived as long as she had? You know what I mean? Because there is no cure for sickle cells anemia. You go pass away at an early age. And it's just interesting how these unnamed people or people who don't necessarily mention, you don't hear their names mentioned when you're hearing the proverbial Beyonce and Cardi B's and all these other women. It's like these people, they are entertainers. This is where the rubber meets the road, and where the real world coincides with the world of fantasy. Because people aggrandize and big up one particular individual just for singing music. This is the real warrior out here, fighting real fights. And I feel like her name should be mentioned more so than the Beyoncés and the other people. But we live in a perverse world, and this is, you get what you get. But I just thought to mention her because she should be mentioned in our dialogue and discourse, because she was a warrior and a fighter. And look, she fight within our community and outside our community. She made her purpose known to the world. And I think that for us, it should be like something, a note, just to mention her, because it's inspirational for us going forward to live a life of purposefully, But I just wanted to put that out there. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, before Buana budging, I want to say also, I'm glad Buana mentioned it because I had forgotten it. I was listening to a sister talk about who had HIV. She was on the radio, and she was talking about all these pills that they take, like Black Steel and Buana mentioned, these cocktails. She said it was 30 tablets. You had to take it every day. If you missed a day, those tablets weren't of use to you anymore. One day, because basically how it was fighting the virus, if you don't take it one day, the virus wins that day, and that's it. And so you have to go move on to another type of cocktail, and there's only so many cocktails out there. So that's a real heavy thing that they put on this young child. By the way, I assume she died from complications associated with the disease because it was a car crash. I think they'll tell us it was a car crash or a plane crash, right? Or murder. So, big ups to her. That was a hell of a life lived. And like Buana said, we should remember her name and likeness. Afthrazer in the chat says, not AIDS, but STDs are on the rise in the Houston area. That's something that we have to get serious about too within our community. But I liked Oni's tweet from earlier, and he mentioned it tonight. Yeah, we supposed to been kind of trying to reel some of this sexual, whatever you want to call it, in our community. We got to reel some of that back in. If there's no last thoughts there, let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 tonight says there are many who are under the impression that Job was only a Muslim or did not care about the question of our spiritual / culture. What are your thoughts on these proposals? Let's go to the link that was provided. Seems like it's taking us. Oh, it's taking us to that site. Let me see. I don't know. My computer's moving really slow. So I guess I'm supposed to read this. Nah, I'm not reading this entire article. So I don't know exactly what part I'm supposed to be looking at. Let me just take a quick look on Discord and see if I could pick up the thread.
It might be that Job quote.
The what?
Like right there, it's like a quote from Job.
Oh, is this the original quote? Let me just double check and make sure on the Discord, because I know I'm not reading that whole article. Yeah, I guess it's that quote then. I can't seem to find the original post. So I guess we'll go with that quote then. All right. Thanks for that, Oni. It says, quote, "It is reasonable to think that an African federal government will give equal weapons to the proponents of the ancestral religion by bringing about an ecumenical council and its priests to allow the creation of a hierarchy, a better adapted liturgy, the formation and the education of a continent-wide caste of priests, the deepening and a normalization of dogma on the basis of ancestral monotheism. In doing so, the future federal government will protect the continent from any new insidious penetration from abroad, will protect Africans from any cultural alienation." So this is Sheikh Anta Job. So yeah, I guess that's the quote. I couldn't find it when I looked back.
Well, Trigger said that there's a video.
There's a video with it too? Okay.
That's what Trigger said.
Let me see. Is the video on this page? I don't see a video on this page. Trigger, speaking in fuller sentences for me, please. Is the video on this page or is the video on the Discord? Is that what you're talking about? In any event, we'll work with it as that quote right there. I'll throw it to Black Steel first, and then I'll go on the Discord and see if I could find it. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 says there are many who are under the impression that Job was only a Muslim or did not care about the question of our spirituality / culture. What are your thoughts on these proposals? So let's start with Black Steel.
So from what my understanding is that Job wanted to reform African religion. Is he wanted to create almost like a priesthood to protect Africa from the ravages of non-African religions. Am I reading that correctly? I guess I'm a little confused. I'm not against the idea. I believe that we do. I mean, it's obviously through a study of history the damage that non-African belief systems have wreaked on the African continent. Not just the physical, but the mental. You know, to remember what Dr. John Henry Clark said, you know, we out Pope the Pope, we out Muhammad. We take these beliefs to heart more so than the people who gave them to us. So it's really telling how damaging they are. So I'm not against the ideas. I think that we do have to, if we're going to organize an African state in the continent, then I think that we have to safeguard not just the physical land, but the spiritual. and the mental safety of the people who live there. So that's all I got on it. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think you responded to what was intended here. Job was Muslim, and a lot of people hold that against him, especially even though he did the work that he did. A lot of people hold it against him that he was Muslim, right? But what they're trying to show in this prompt is that even though he was Muslim, he did consider African spirituality and African culture. And this quote, I guess, speaks to that future, that in the future, Africa needs to set up itself so that it protects itself from the outsiders and their customs and beliefs and whatnot. So I think this quote does kind of represent the fact that he did keep that in mind. He did keep African spirituality in mind, which still leads to the question for me anyway. Well, why be Muslim? But I saw Jose respond to this on Discord and said something like being Muslim in Senegal is different than what we know of being Muslim. So I would actually like to hear more about that too, as a matter of fact. But in the meantime, let's go to Buana. Buana, what say you?
Well, this is a tricky subject because I've heard different. I've heard that Diop was Muslim in name only. In name only. I've heard that his thing was he was really trying. I don't know if he was an atheist or if he was trying to actively trying to bring a resurgence of African religions and things like that and spirituality. But I don't think that in terms of being a Muslim, I think that was really in name only. I don't think that he was ever a practicing Muslim at all. So I think that I would have to give you more information in terms of that because I've heard in academic places that Diop was a Muslim and only in name only. Because I have a Christian name, people would assume that automatically that I'm a Christian person, or because I have a Jewish name, really, but they would automatically assume these things. But I don't think that he was ever a practicing Muslim. But in terms of the resurgence of African spirituality, I'm an advocate of these kinds of things. I've been, Brother Bakari exposed me to his brother named Pop Benny. Pop Benny is an Ifa Babalao. And he said some things to me that kind of blew my mind, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not dismissive of any religion, really and truly. I put myself in a position of agnostic because I really don't know. I don't know, and I like to use my brain to reason. I don't think that we have the ability to reason for nothing. I don't just like to settle on just believe. So in terms of these questions and spirituality and integrating with culture, I have a little issue with it. Because I don't like the philosophy of just believing. I think that you should use logic in the world. You should use reasoning. And I don't believe that has a European or Eurocentric basis. Reason doesn't have a Eurocentric basis. But I would just say that I'm not necessarily 100% clear whether Diop I know he wasn't a practicing Muslim. I do know that he was trying to bring about a resurgence of African traditions and culture, but I just need to be factual in when I speak on this particular issue. So I will just reserve my opinions until I have better information and commenting on this point. So I'll just leave it there.
All right. So Trigger and Afro Native World said the link is on the Discord. So I think this is the link here. Supposed to start at 1:46:46. I'll play it. Let me share my. Yeah, so I'll play it. I think this is it. Trigger, you'll let me know if this is it for sure. I'll play it and then we'll discuss it.
Is Negro and the intelligent is Greek. In other words, the black man is an emotional being and the rational being is the white man. Then we have to put you in the dustbin. The second philosophy that came up is what they call the triple heritage by the Kenyan Professor Ali Manzuri and other people that follow it. The triple heritage meant that Islam, Christianity have become part of the African culture.
Yeah.
And the African have played a significant role in
Yes.
the global development of this religion, and they have invested humanly, culturally, they have invested a lot to the development of those religions, even from the very beginning. So to remove them today, it will be a difficulty. So we should consider it as a part of the African culture. Then he added what he called the traditionalism. I don't know why they like that term. So traditionalism, Islam, Christianity.
Yes.
But now what they're attributing to Diop, which Diop did not really say, it's called the Afrocentric. So they say, which says then the African cannot be at the periphery of other people's culture just because there is an accident of history of Islam conquering. There's an accident of history of Christian conquering. Then the Black African then will lose its originality because of that culture. There was an accident of history of occupation. So the German occupied France. France would no longer speak French.
Yeah.
So for Diop, that's where the African Renaissance come in. The rediscovery and expression of African creativity and genius.
100%.
So that have to put Islam and Christianity on the judgment table.
Yeah. I have no problem with that. I think that there is that, and then we have to deal with the material circumstance of where we are at in that context. I'll say two things on this very quickly. The first is big up to my brother Abiola, a brother actually from Ivory Coast, who I had the pleasure of meeting some years ago from an organization called National Committee, and he introduced me to this book from Diop that's not published in English as yet, called Alert in the Tropics. And in that book he has a subsection on religion, and he speaks about the fact that all of the Muslims and the Christians in Africa are trying their best to convert all of the traditionalists, quote unquote, by any means necessary. And so he basically, and people say that Diop was a Muslim, right? I've had this conversation with Muslim brothers and sisters who flag up the fact that Diop,
but they have not read his articles.
Right,
Diop said there has to be a creation of African spirituality, and he said otherwise Africa would massacre themselves with the religion.
Right, and
Diop was a nominal Muslim, like a culturally.
Well, yeah, it's a part of the
but he was part of the morning.
It's part of the more, and even that's interesting because I think that even so, for example, one of the things that I do say to people is that as Africans from the diaspora, coming mostly from a Christian context, times it's easier for us to see African spiritual retentions that are masked by Christianity than it is for us to identify the same that is masked by Islam.
Yes.
So for example, we will look in the Caribbean and we'll see the spiritual Baptist churches, or whatever, that a lot of churches that wear white, and we recognize, well, these are they say they're Christian, but a lot of them have African spiritual expressions or retentions within their expression of Christianity. A similar thing exists in Islam in West Africa, to some degree, among like the Bayefal, the Maulid, Sheikh Amadou Bamba and what he was dealing with. There's a lot of African spiritual retention, within this expression of what is popularly referred to as Islam. To the point whereby there are more fundamentalist Muslims who don't consider it to be Islam.
They don't even see them as Muslims.
Just this I'm saying, So we have to be nuanced in our understanding of these issues. But Diop, in that book, was speaking to the fact that the African spiritual systems have to develop. He used the word a dogma, and I don't like the terminology, but I know what he means. He's basically saying like a body of knowledge.
A clear theology.
Right.
Because Diop was looking at it, making it effective. Because the reason why, if you look at Ouagadougou, how the Muslim did not actually just take up Ouagadougou like that.
Yes.
They came with their theology, their writings, and their everything. And our kings thought
And
like,
trade.
oh, they are progressive. Let them stay.
Yes.
So to create, based on the reality we face now, we should not have a kind of a religion that is just receptive. We have to not create a theology or hierarchy or priest.
Yes.
So kind of a deal is to put a fence.
Yes.
So not allow anybody else to come and then ride over us and say we are so peaceful.
That's what he
our
said.
shrine is open to everyone. No, we begin to now create a theology, a system that people must now follow to have access to African spiritual knowledge.
Yes, right. And the thing to point out here is that Diop saw this as a political issue.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
He saw this as a political
he was
issue.
not interested in the metaphysical.
Right.
For him, it was a political instrument.
Right.
That's what religion and spirituality is.
You know what I'm saying? And he saw it in a similar way to language, so that we're not satellites of Saudi Arabia and Rome or Britain, you know what I'm saying, or America, in this sense, that we have our own orientation. That's what he was concerned about. And so I am fully appreciative. And the fact is that when you're in the Pan-African movement, you don't operate in the Pan-African movement and not come across brothers and sisters who are sincere and active and Muslim and Christian. And we work with each other all of the time. Yeah. I also have to recognize the reality that wherever we are as brothers and sisters, African indigenous spiritual systems are fundamentally marginalized. And that is a reality that we have to address. And we have to assert ourselves as those who are dealing with indigenous African spiritual systems. There is a thinker by the name of Okot Pitek. He's from Uganda. And he speaks about the fact that the studies of African religions are the key to understanding the culture of our people. The study of our religion is the key to understanding the culture of our people. So in effect, no other spiritual systems can state that claim, if that makes sense. Yeah, you don't have to be understanding yourself as an African doesn't come in the same way through any other spiritual orientation.
No.
Right? This is what I'm saying. No other spiritual orientation can state that claim in that same way. And I make that statement unapologetically. And whilst professing unity with my Muslim and my Christian brothers and whatever other religion, Buddhism, whatever. Yeah. That unity must exist, and we must collaborate across religious lines. But we also have to deal with the extent to which our indigenous spiritual systems have been denigrated, demonized, and marginalized. Why that is, the political motivations behind it, and the fact that those political motivations mean that there is a tool here for our liberation, or choose to use it, and it is a must.
Yeah, definitely. Like I resonate with what you said. Like there's a lot of sometimes some African spiritual aspects that are lost. If you want to even trace them, people don't realize. You go to some traditional Muslims in West Africa, they are keeping. And I will give you a few in my own Mandingo culture that I know. One, when a person died, they after the burial, they wait for 40 days. After 40 days, there is a huge meeting about that the person's soul is about to travel for judgment. So now all the family have to gather to send energy, to send blessing.
Yes.
So now when you ask them, they try to use Islam to cover up. They say that, they try to pray, maybe Allah will be judging this person. Then we ask them in the Quran, where is the 40 days? Where is the 40 days to pray for this dead going for judgment?
Yes,
it's not there.
Yes.
Then they have they have a wasting of water. So you go, and then after when they do all of that, then they take the calabash and put water in it and do libation. They call it jibon. Then they say they're wasting water. Then you ask them why, they say no, Allah, you have to waste cold water the earth, to the living things on the earth, water. I said, you are doing libation.
Libation, yeah.
Show me in the Quran where it says you need to waste this cold water.
Yeah.
Things like that. They
sir.
kept a lot of aspect of the culture, and I see it.
Mm.
And in fact, there is every year in my culture, there's what they call the suko. Suko means every family member gather to kill a cow or a sheep to pray for the deceased of their family, the ancestors. So you do that yearly. They kill a cow, and then what in our language is to appease to the ancestors. But then when they now, because they are Muslims, they consider it. So they say they are praying for the dead for Allah to forgive them. First of all, they have been judged. If they have been judged according to the Quran already, why pray for the yearly? It's the ancestral sacrifice you are trying to replace. You see?
And those, I think those discussions need to happen, and the reality is they don't always have to happen in an antagonistic way.
No.
Yeah? Right? It's just what I'm saying, you know, like we're having a conversation now. What you're saying is just sounds factual to me, and I think that we need to give space and provide space for our indigenously inclined brothers and sisters to express that, yeah, and educate and also encourage an African-centered inclination. Like, so there are some brothers and sisters who are Christian and Muslim who would readily recognize that this is a retention of our culture, and they're quite proud of that, right? And so there's something for us to harmonize there, if that makes sense. There's an inclination for us to harmonize with there, and I think that that's also a way to go.
Right. So on a final.
All right. That video does explain a little bit more. I was going to say something else, but I'll table that for a second. I see there's a good conversation going on in the chat. So if you're listening to the playback, or if you're even listening live but not paying attention to your screen right now, check out the conversation in the chat. A good one with Arthur, Trigger Happy. I used to be like Arthur. I used to say, you know, if we do all this dividing before we even start doing work, you know, how many people are going to be left? I've actually said it on this platform several times. You know, who's black, who ain't black, who's not black enough. By the time we start to whittle away all these different filters of, you know, who's Christian, who's Muslim, who will we work with? The one thing I have realized over the years, though, is that if you build something, but if you can find a way to build something, but your ideologies don't really mesh, after you've built this thing, then what happens? So it does kind of make a little bit of sense to build with the people who you know ideologically you're going to be sound with everyone, and whatever we build, we should be able to maintain. So I will say that, but you guys do check out the chat. I'll try to read some of them as the conversation goes on. Let's start with Black Steel. Black Steel, what say you?
Okay, so that video was a little bit better, the understanding. That does help. So, well, I can't really. I guess the issue, if we're trying to organize African people, we got to understand that some people they really are into this religion thing, and I understand the idea of alienating people. But I also think that many Christians, many Muslims, they don't really grapple with the harm that their religious beliefs have caused African culture, African civilization together. I find a lot of Christians, in my experience, they limit their stuff on the Bible and, you know, I'm saved by the Lord, all that other stuff. But then they don't really account for the indoctrination, the docility, all the other negative, the self-hatred, the idea that something's wrong with your culture is wicked, is devil worship, is whatever. And they don't really think about it too deep. They just know that's what I believe. My mama believed it, my daddy believed it. I was baptized at a young age. You know, my parents took me to the mosque, and I've been bumping my head on the floor since I was 5 years old. So it's a lot of stuff that comes that I think that a lot of religious people don't really reckon with. When Malcolm was organizing his organization, African Unity, he was of the belief that you keep your religion in the closet. What you believe is what you believe, and we are a secular organization. Your personal beliefs are your personal beliefs. They don't influence what we do here. And I find that a lot of religious people have a big problem with that. They can't keep their religion to themselves, right? So somebody who is Muslim or Christian, they feel the need to spread their religion because literally it tells you to do that in the Bible. I don't know about, I don't read the Quran, but in the Bible it tells you to, speak the gospel to every creature. So that can sometimes that can divide people and derail people. And I understand the need to for African people to return to our original spirituality, however that may look in 2024. I'm not against that. But my thing is, I just want people to, when we organize for our liberation, if we create an African state, I believe that African people should be able to worship as they choose, but they should not let non-African beliefs influence the functioning of the state. I would, if anything, I would definitely, in this hypothetical African state, I would definitely go for a separation of church and state. I would definitely believe that. And if they can't keep their religion to themselves, we can't work with them. If you can't function and work for the liberation of African people without hoping we're going to pray. And I saw something today about a child who was locked up in some of these godforsaken southern states. And they talk about they did a Jericho walk, and they walked around the prison 7 times, like in the Bible, and they prayed like in the Bible in the story of the wall of Jericho. What the fuck? What the fuck? Like I feel like sometimes this Christian orientation, sometimes it makes us, some of the things we choose to do are just, I don't know. But I'll go ahead and I'll pass the mic. I've been talking for a minute, so I'll let somebody else speak. Thanks.
I appreciate you, Black Steel. By the way, shout out to Trigger Happy for coming up with the link and sending it to me. That was clutch. I appreciate you. It really changes the dynamic of this topic that we're speaking on. I want to welcome our boy Kofi, the Black Critic. I heard Anthony say himself, Buana, and you had a good conversation, so I got to go back and check it out. But how are you this week?
I'm doing good. Yes, and thanks to Bwana and Anthony. Thank you guys for coming through. You really made that stream this past Thursday a really good one. I really appreciate that. It's a good one. Yeah, guys, check it out. Thank you for that. Regarding to this topic right here, I was just gonna mention the guy in the chat that was saying like, wow, you're separating us before we could build something. And I agree with what you said. And also piggybacking on Black Steel's what he was saying is that wow, the thing that I found when I was like, why are Black people in just such a disarray? And I made it my own personal challenge to find out why. Since 2002. So from 2002 to now, our problem is politics and religion. Black people across the world, in the diaspora and on the continent, doesn't know how to navigate in this day and age through religion and politics, right? Dr. Clark says, if you can't use religion as your benefit of salvation, dash away in the ash can of history, right? And we can't get over these things. So what Black Steel was saying was that, again, we hold these things like it's a part of our identity. And one thing that I always knew this, but one thing that really slapped me in the face, I was talking to this guy, right? Real cool guy, guy from Senegal. He's Wolof, right? And I met him it was around time of Ramadan, right? So he was, dressed in his so-called traditional outfit and things like that. And, he sells incense and oils and stuff like that. So we were on the street, I'm talking to him because he had a little book. So we were talking about books and African history and things like that. And he had this girl walking through. He's like, yo, you see that girl that walked through right there like that? He's like, yeah. He's like, she's from my country. Now she knows it's Ramadan and she's not dressed in her in her Muslim traditional wear. I'm like, okay. Girl comes back around the corner. He shouts her name. He's trying to, in a way, shame her of not dressing up in her Muslim outwear. You know, she's not haram. You know, for you don't know, haram means it's not good. She's not kosher right now. She's supposed to be celebrating. She was doing Ramadan. So I asked him a question. I was like, "You're from Senegal, right?" He said, "Yeah, I'm from Senegal." I said, "You're Wolof, right?" He said, "Yeah, Wolof, proud Wolof." And I asked him a question. So, what do you consider yourself first, more than anything? A Muslim man or a Wolof man? This man looked at me like I was speaking Dutch. Like, why would I ask him something like that? Like he couldn't give a real clear answer. It was not a definite answer. And this is our problem. So if we're building something like you said, right? Yes, your religion shouldn't matter. But if you're not black, you're not African, if you're not Igbo, Hausa, Maasai, and all these other African groups, if you're not that first, and you're some other foreign religion first, then you're letting the enemy in. Your foundation is built on mediocrity. It's built on white ideologies and principles. And that's why when people say things like that, they don't even know their own goddamn history. White people never came to Africa. The Muslims, the whites never came to Africa guns blazing. Never. Never. No military tactician is going to come into a place that they don't know, where they know they're outnumbered, guns blazing. What do? They find out what your customs are, what your mores, what your belief system is. So knowing that black people are obsessed with God and will try any path to God. Hey, take this Christianity. That's what the Portuguese did when they went to West Africa. That's what the Muslims did. The traders. That's how Islam came into North Africa, by trade. And say, hey, you want to try this religion out? Tried it out. And that's how they conquer people over, by using what? By using surahs from the Quran. Hey, if you're a Muslim brother like me and you say you're Muslim, how about you should be doing this for me? You should be facilitating this for me. Hey, you're a Christian. Hey, as a Christian brother to another Christian brother, you should be facilitating this to me as your Christian brother. And then that's why Africa is in the way it is right now. So the person who's saying that, that's the reason why. You have to start dividing. You have to. What did Marcus Garvey say? He says, the Africans are I desire not all Africans to come to Africa, because the Africans are no good here are going to be no good over there. Have to divide. Everybody does it. And that's internally and externally. So when it comes to, like, I used to be I was a very, very religious Christian person, right? If I was to look at myself 20, 30 years from who I am right now, I would throw holy water on myself and run away. Like I'm running away from the devil, because I am not the same person, but I still have that passion of God. So me, I'm more agnostic. I'm from a Judeo-Christian Islamic paradigm. I'm an atheist. I'm a heathen. I'm a pagan. That's good. I love that, right? But I'm secular. But in Africa, I'm not an atheist. I'm not a secular person. I believe in those other ways and the traditions of my ancestors. So to end it here, basically, yes, this is something that we have to do. If we need to have some sort of litmus test for anybody, for any organization that you have, because you have to be serious. It's a serious business. This person is about the business of the serious organization that we're trying to build. You don't want anyone saying, hey, but I'm Christian and I need to extend my Christian brotherhood to a white person, to an Asian person, and all this stuff. No, we can't do that. But I'll pass the mic.
I appreciate that, Kofi. With that said, let's throw it to Buana. Buana, what's it?
I can leave it with the brothers. The brother Kofi. Coco, this ain't my discussion. The spirituality discussions are not my discussions. Everybody know what my position is on it. I think that Trigger Happy and my brother, my other brother, my Haitian brother, they better at these kinds of discussions than I could ever be. And I think that Kofi laid, all the religious-minded people are laying it out better than I can. Because from my perspective, I decide to live and let live because I know too many different kinds of religious kinds of people. This basically describing which is the right way in terms of what we should practice. And I say to each his own. I say to each his own. As long as it's not taken away from what we could accomplish tangibly here on this earth. I say to each his own. To each his own, man. You know, I deal with reason because I don't deal with the unseen. I am interested, but I am not so embedded in the unseen to where I could speak intelligently in terms of what we need to be and where we need to be going. So I would just leave it to my brothers like Kofi, and Trigger Happy, and all the other brothers who are more skilled than I am with these particular matters and issues. You know.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's okay. The only thing is I think it's obvious that we have been imprinted on with these Abrahamic religions that cause us to not care about our ancestral lands and our ancestors' stories. And I think it's pretty easy to see that while we might live and let live, you can't let that shit live too long in your mix up, right? Because like they're trying to get through to Althazar in the chat, after you've worked together somehow and built a thing, now what happens when these people who are outside of their African mind start quarreling about what they want?
I believe that you should I would believe that it's best to have a secular state. I don't want a religious state. I've seen what the religious states have done throughout the so-called world, and I believe that there's the secular states are a better format. You could practice whatever religion you want to practice within that state, but I believe that a secular state, a state that is governed by reason, is governed by not belief, but reason is the best format for any state. But I believe that you are free to believe whatever you want to believe in, you know. But if it's affecting reason and good governance, then you become a threat to my state. But religious states, come on, bro. Come on, I don't believe in that.
Yeah,
theocracies don't work. Theocracies don't work.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a story about this black woman in South Africa. Because remember, South Africa had presented the case of genocide to the International Court of Justice. And there was a black woman on there talking about, oh, if you believe in the biblical prophecy, this is not a good thing. You know, they are God's chosen people. This is the Antichrist. So here, this black woman living in South Africa was saying that South Africa bringing Israel to the International Court of Justice for genocide was an act of Antichrist. This is the level of menticide that our people are under due to these Abrahamic religions. And I remember that, I think that was one topic I brought, is that here she is, South Africa being a victim of Israel's genocidal actions because Israel financed South Africa during apartheid. They helped develop the nuclear weapons program. They helped try to develop a biological weapons program to kill off indigenous people like Africans and, you know, the Palestinians and so on and so forth. But in her mind, because in her holy book that she had received from her ancestors that had been forced to believe it by these crackers, they were doing the wrong thing. So here it is that you have a woman who is so indoctrinated by Christianity that she believes speaking out against genocide is an act of Antichrist, as long as the genocide is being done by God's chosen people. This really, you gotta be careful.
What do you do with people like that, Black Steel? You keep them away from the sharp knives. You keep them away from the guns. You keep them away. And no,
unless they're in America.
Well, you know what it is, Kofi. But you keep them away from
office in America.
Keep them far. Keep
All
them
the
far away.
pro-Zionists are not Jews, or those Christian fundamentalists.
Fundamentally, keep them far away that from anything that's gonna affect some real changes and happening. Like the Muslims used to go into Egypt and start blowing off the spiritual noses off of ancient statues that been in Egypt for thousands of years because Allah tell them to do so. You know, or people blowing up abortion clinics because they believe these kinds of things. You just keep them far away. Let them espouse any beliefs that they want, because you can't. A man, I told you all this on the Better Medicine podcast before. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. What does that mean? Even if in the face of insurmountable evidence, they're gonna fall to their beliefs. It's a very difficult barrier to reach over and get them to see reason, because they're gonna fall to the belief no matter what you say. So I say keep them away from sharp knives, sharp objects, preferably young children, and we'll be okay. You can believe whatever you want to believe. You can believe in aliens, you know?
Aliens are real, but that's a different topic. but what you're saying is absolutely right. It seems like, well, you're a spiritual person, you're a secular person, and you're want to discriminate. It has nothing to do with discrimination. It has to do with survival. I'm not gonna put if the mission statement and the goal is Black survival, Black love, and if that's the foundation, we don't need anything that's gonna undermine that, right? So if but again, I'm not saying you can't be a Christian and be pro-Black. I know a lot of Christians that are pro-Black. They may not be in as deep it is as I am and just throw the whole thing away, but you know, it has to be an understanding of like, hey, look, if you can put that, it's a lot of truths that they can't deal with. I mean, I used to have a friend that he was Black in thought, but he couldn't get rid of that religion. 4 years later, after knowing me, he threw the whole thing away. Because once you have a open mind and be honest with yourself as far as like where this religion came from and how did it benefit you and your people, once you're not, because Christianity is very selfish. Because it was my God this, my God this, my God deliver me from this, my God deliver me from that. Okay, what has that particular God done for your people? Unless you're saying you're like Jesse Lee Peterson, where he was like, hey, look, slavery was bad, but hey, look, through the grace of God, at least we're here in America. Look what's going on in Africa. Everyone's trying to leave Africa, so they have to have this rationality of the same thing of Job. Oh, you suffered and you went through all these things, but look where you are now. I'm like, and my family was that story. I was like, that's a fucking despicable story. You're telling me that God, this loving God, right? Job is his favorite servant. Then Satan, the person who brought sin into the world, wants to damage your creation, is going to come to me, God, and say, well, the only reason why Job loves you so much because you have given him so much. Yes, because this is my boy. But I bet you if you take away all those things away from him, he'll curse your name. Who the fuck are you that I gotta prove anything to? You're Satan. But no, God said, bet. You can do whatever you want to, just don't kill him. What type of friend is that? To my Christian and Muslim brothers. Like, what morale? That's sick. You give him boils. He was suffering. You killed his wife. You killed all his children. And I had to have the faith of Job. I had to be a sucker like Job. And what he do? But his reward is that for being a pawn to prove something to Satan is that I'm going to give you more money. Your riches, I'm going to multiply your riches, and you get a new wife, and you have more children. I love the children that I had. How do you make sense of this? And you have religious people that will sit there and try to make sense of that. Those are fucking dangerous people.
You know what's crazy? There's a verse in Job that I always hear people say. It says, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. That is some psychopathic shit right there.
Exactly. And it's like, and again, I grew up with that, you know, when you're going through trials and tribulation, and it's like, look, have faith to Job, have faith to Job. And is one thing that people, especially people who read, you could read a book once and you read the book twice. You're like, wow, I missed that. I've read books and I converse with other people and say that's in the book, and I'm like, no, it isn't. And I read it and it was there. I missed it. So I'm saying that to say you could be taught this your whole life, but when you look at it again under a different lens, you're like, whoa, something's wrong here. And I don't think a lot of Christians have that voice in their head. And the ones that do, I have Christians that told me one time, after very logical, it's like, you know what? I'm still gonna believe. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. That's what we need. We want to know, once these things are laid out, who are you gonna are you gonna be a slave to that religion, or are you gonna honor common sense and decent morality? Humans are more decent than the Quran and the Bible. Way more decent. Anyone wants to follow anything, all the Ten Commandments, the Levitical laws in there, to right now to kill people that don't believe in religion and all these other things and stuff like that, they will be under the jail. They will be under the jail, and that's what Christians don't realize. Well, I'm a God-fearing man. Like, why? I'm a Christian. Like, that's supposed to be like some type of, ooh, I'm a moral person. When I see people that say that, I just laugh at them.
Let's hear from Oni next. Oni, what say you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so that's the thing. I'm starting to evolve in my own thinking, in regards to this religion stuff. But fortunately, I just saw a pretty interesting quote from this guy named Lucius Seneca. I looked it up. He's a Roman philosopher back in like 65 AD. I guess the time around the time of y'all boy Christ. But anyway, he says, look, it's simple. Well, somebody else summarized it, said religion is a scam. Religion is, and so Lucius says religion is regarded by the common people as true, by the wise as false, and by the rulers as useful. You know what I mean? Ultimately, it's just a tool. It's just a tool to get people to follow the same values that you want them to follow. Like it's a tool by the ruling class to let the ruled class follow the values that the ruling class wants them to have. And so what Bono was saying was really potent when he said, hey, we're just gonna keep them away from sharp knives. We have to understand that every society is separated into two classes. You could say the upper class and the lower class. You could say the ruling class and the ruled class. You could say the commoners and the elites. Whatever it is that you want to say, or even the decision makers and those who don't make decisions, right? And ultimately, you got to say to yourself, I want the people who are making decisions to not make decisions based off of, I think as Trigger put it, nomads from the, from prehistory. You know what I'm saying? Prehistorical nomads. I want people making decisions to be up to date, technological, scientific, rational, and so on and so forth. Right? I want them to have values that pertain to the development of Africa. Right? And I don't want them to be BH. Okay? What's BH? Shout out to your boys, Umar Johnson. He said that, sometimes you got to put behind somebody's title BH. If they messing with other people outside the race, you got to put in their title BH, and that stands for bunny hoppers. You know what I'm saying? you gotta let people. You gotta remind people, because here's the thing: we all talking about, hey man, you blah blah blah. Job was a BH too. Check out the Job was a BH too. And I'm thinking back to, I had this boy back, this brother back in high school. Good brother, right? Well, no, he was my dude, but he was a Christian. And I helped them. I helped them get game back in the day. I was practicing how to do my day game. Macking on the streets and shit, right? And he and I was my wingman for a minute, right? Eventually, this dude is like, he's Christian, is what I feel for it. What does he do? He decides to find the love of his life. What does the love of his life look like? A white Christian. Okay, I never met the lady. I stopped talking to the dude, right? But this dude would come to your black meetings and be like, yeah, but I got to be open to other races because the Christian, in Christianity, it's you got to understand it's a tool. It's a tool. It's a scam. It's for the ruling people. The whole scheme, the whole thing is it's imagination. And the trouble is this: it's not just the Abrahamic religions. I'm really convinced that all the spiritual systems were just were just tools for the ruling class. Right now I'm reading about the Lunda, right, and the Luba. The Luba, Kingdom of Lunda and Luba, they're both Congolese kingdoms. One thing you find that happens a lot in traditional Africa was they had divine kingships, right? So the king would have some, the king would be, they have a royal family, their lineage is better than my lineage, right? Their royalty, okay? And it's spiritual. It's connected to their spiritual system, which is why even when Cheikh to Job is saying, hey, look, we're gonna make a hierarchical, monotheistic, blah, 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 blah. It don't even make any sense if you're familiar with African spiritual systems. Because the system that the Luba had and the system that the Lunda have, even though they are neighbors, even though they were contemporaries, is radically different, and they're both different tools to serve their ruling class, to serve their ruling interests. And even though they were neighbors in the same time period, the same era, right? You couldn't necessarily put the two together. So when you start saying, and then here's the thing too, when you start saying monotheism, right? The thing that a lot of us don't realize is that monotheism was traditional. Okay, was against the traditions of Kemet. The brother who, I shouldn't say brother, but Amenhotep IV, or I say Amenhotep Ya Unne, right? He introduces monotheism to the world. Okay? And the ancient Kemet too are like, yo, get that shit out of here. Right? Now the Abrahamics run with it. So, but my thing is that Job, especially Job, since he knows African spiritual, he knows African history really well. He knows about Amenhotep. He wrote about it, right? He should say to himself, hey, look, this monotheism is not really our spiritual mind frame, our spiritual framework. But what we have today is that a lot of us start pushing that monotheism because we were Christianized, because we were Abrahamicized, because we were Islamicized, And like I said, I love that pause. But I respect Cheikh the Joke, but we gotta be clear. Was he a bunny hopper? You know what I'm saying? Was he a bunny hopper? And I mean, you might say, well, that has nothing to do with religion. Maybe not. But my question is this: what about we understand? Look, it's a scam. It's just people trying to scare you into doing what they want you to do without necessarily using violence. Okay? Because even like I said, I love my eye. I was just telling y'all earlier, I was studying my eye. You know what the consequence is for premarital sex? If it, in the system of my eye, you get your heart eaten by a dog named Baba. Okay? That's the consequence. Or you use the consequence for you tipping the scale. You're taking a measurement, you make a false measurement, or you hold up the thing, whatever. Basically, there's a balance scale and you bullshit it. You get your heart eaten by this dog named Baba. Now, is there a dog named Baba? No. Is there some dog that's going to eat your heart? Not at all. But they scare you so that you don't be doing bad, you don't be doing fuck shit. You don't be falsifying measurements. You don't be lying on people. You don't be, blaspheming people. You don't do so on and so forth. But it's bullshit. Everybody knows that. Because here's the thing. If I tell you, Zeus is bullshit, you're going to say, yeah, obviously. I tell you Odin is bullshit, you're going to say, obviously. If I tell you, Oedipus and whomever, you're going to say, yeah, of course those are bullshit. They're all stories. If I tell you Harry Potter's bullshit, you're going to say, yeah, it's bullshit. But then all of a sudden I tell you Jehovah and you like, oh man, that's the real truth, man. You can't be talking about that shit. It's the same damn topic.
Can I interject real quick?
Oh yeah, yeah, what?
No, I mean, I get what you're saying, but as far as ma'at and having your heart weighed against the truth of stuff like that. Yes, it's symbolic. I don't think it's to scare you, right? It's to basically saying like if we are spiritual beings living in a physical world, right? There's a consequence for this. So if your heart is heavy against the scale of truth, or against the feather of Ma'at, or whatever, it's basically saying your heart is going to be devoured, and we're the first people to understand a reincarnation. Then guess what? You have to relive this life again until you get it. Now, this is all belief systems. This is not factual systems. No one in the world has ever come back and say, yo, it's lit on the other side, right? So these are systems that we have a belief system too. The problem that I have and we have, which is to me is more believable, and not obviously everything in far as like African system that have spirituality is perfect, right? Because we're all human. Of course, I see what you're saying. Some people will take advantage of that. Another thing I want to also point out is basically that when it comes to religion, I don't know if you said something to the effect, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong. You said that, well, Lot and all that stuff is history. That's not history. Mostly everything in the Bible is fiction. It's not history. There has some historical characters in there, but it's not history. And I think that's another thing that religious people are grappling. They don't understand there's actual history and there's biblical history. Those are two completely different things. And I'll end it on this. If things in the Bible during that time was real, how come we don't have a museum with Abraham and Moses and David and all these people in there with their artifacts, or Solomon and all? Nothing. They're fiction. And I'll just leave it on to you. I don't mean to cut, but you were dropping some gems, but there was a couple of things I wanted to ask you and get an understanding.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I mentioned Lot or the Bible is history, but I feel you. Yeah, no. I know what you're saying, that that was their belief, and that it wasn't like they could. I mean, I know you're saying that it's not like they the heavy heart and all that kind of stuff, but or that there's a consequence for life. That's what I'm saying, though. That's there's no consequence. You understand? There are real consequences, like somebody will beat you over the head if you do some fuck shit. Okay, that's a real consequence. But if you don't want to beat somebody over the head, you tell them, hey, you know what? If you do some fuck shit, you're gonna get you're gonna get your head, you're gonna get your heart eaten. You know what I mean? Like in some respects, it could have just been kid stories.
Okay, well, like I said, the 41 negative confession is they took from the 10 Commandments. That's where they took it from. So, so it's basically you have a society, you have to have rules, you have to have things to govern it. We all know what's right. This is the priesthood. This is the priesthood. So yeah, Kemet was a theocracy in a way, but it's also, I'm pretty sure they had do not steal. Why? Because people were stealing. Right. And from a spiritual perspective, yeah, you could do it here on earth and be, even in the Bible says that, well, what's the chance of a rich man getting into heaven through a needle of a camel's eye and all that other stuff? It's basically saying, yes, you can do things here on earth from a spiritual perspective. When you go to heaven, which in the Kemites call it the Duat, when you want to go over to the Duat, you're doing all these evil things, you don't get in. So I see what you're saying, but it's more to keep you in line spiritually. But I see what you're saying. It can be used for other nefarious purposes. Yeah.
No. What I mean, it's not nefarious. What I mean is like this. You do all that bullshit. Whether you good or bad, you're not going to know. There's no afterlife. That's what I'm saying. Like you pointed out earlier, nobody knows about no afterlife. And the reason why nobody knows about no afterlife is because there is no afterlife. However, you can tell people there's an afterlife and then control them by letting them know, oh yeah, there's something that happens after you die.
Well, yeah, like I said, yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, I'm agnostic, right? It's a belief system. Like I believe there's an afterlife. I'm not a Christian using belief as fact. I understand belief means something that I can't prove. It's something that I hold dear to myself that I wish to be true. So I'm not gonna get in an argument with someone saying that, well, prove the afterlife is right, because I know I can't prove it, right? Yeah. But for those who believe it, that's and they take it to a different level, then that's a whole different story.
Yeah, no, of course. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I mean. It's like, it's imaginary. You get what I'm saying? It's imaginary. You know, like when you say belief, you're just saying this is something that I imagine. You're not saying that there's something that you've seen. You're not saying it's something you heard. You're not saying it's something you experienced. You're saying, I imagine that after I die, you know, there's something else that happens. But, you know, if I told you that something happened to the cows after they die, you'd tell me that's bullshit. If I told you that something happens to the roach after you crush it, you'd say that's bullshit. If I tell you something happened to the tree after you cut it down, you'll say that's bullshit.
Depending on what religious
you're made
philosophy
of.
you're in.
What is it?
If I'm Hindu, I believe it.
No, what I'm saying is that what you're made of the same stuff as the roach, as the cow, as the tree. You see what I'm saying? We're all made of the same stuff.
Agreed.
We all, but what happens to them is what happens to us. Nothing happens to us. You know that serial killer that we all hate, whoever it is, right? He did all that fuck shit. He's not burning in no place. He just did that fuck shit. And that's the reality. Now, that's not a comforting thought for some of us. Some of
You
us
need
rather prefer,
Jesus. You need Jesus.
exactly. Some would prefer, hey, no. There is some sort of consequence for you doing some old bullshit, right? And that's okay. You know, but now it becomes, well, where are you getting those values from? Because when we start getting into the nitty-gritty of it, right? Every one of these religions have a hierarchy. And all of those hierarchies end outside. I mean, all the ones that we practice, big ones, they end outside of Africa. So if we start talking, like you say, we need Jesus, right? If we start talking about Christianity, right? Who's a bigger authority on Christianity? Me or the Pope?
It will be the Pope.
It'll be the Pope. In fact, who's a bigger authority? You or the Pope? Who's a bigger authority? Your pastor or the Pope? Who's a bigger authority? You know, your so on and so forth, the Pope. Now, is the Pope a black man or a white man?
White man.
End of story. You see what I'm saying? Now
Yeah.
you go to the Islamic faith. You say, well, look, you know, even if you have this, even if you have Job, who's a bigger authority on Islam? Job or the head imam in Saudi Arabia?
It'll be the Imam in Saudi Arabia.
It's the imam it's the chief in Saudi Arabia. So overall, your people that you train to be a Christian, that you train to be Muslim, or that you tolerated being a Christian, tolerate being a Muslim, if that imam in Saudi Arabia says it's jihad time, you know what time it is?
It's jihad time.
You know what I'm saying? That's it. So you can't have outside of your country that kind of authority. Now, it goes back to what Barna was saying, though. If you're a commoner, if you're not making decisions, it's not really that big a deal if you think that, you know, if you know the man outside says it's jihad time and you ain't got nothing to do with jihad with. However, right, when we start overlooking the importance of people not having foreign religion, foreign values, foreign spiritual system, that's where the problem is. Because even though I personally could see the mind, and I think the mind code is on point. I think it's on point. But even though I can't say that it's 100% factual in terms of, you know, whether there's a consequence to obeying it or not, what I could say is those were African values. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
Exactly. At the end of the day, the highest authority in ancient Kemet was what they call the
pharaoh and the priest,
the pharaoh, the king, so on and so forth, the Nesut. That was the highest authority in the Kemet system. That's all you want, and that's why it goes back to what this dude Lucius said, which was let me just double check. He says religion is regarded by the common people as true. We have an afterlife. The wise people as false. We don't got an afterlife, but the rulers as useful. Yeah, keep believing there's an afterlife. So don't motherfucking scam people. Don't scam people. There's an afterlife, and if you scam people, you're gonna get your heart eaten. You know what I mean? You're gonna get tortured for the rest of eternity. And you're not gonna get tortured, but it's useful if you think that, just so that you don't do it. That's all I'm gonna say.
It's funny how the punishments for those things are always something that's like more relevant in that time that they're speaking. It never, like, really and truly, who's believing like a dog will eat your heart today? Like who's fearful of that today? You know, but back in that time, that probably was a big deal. It probably was a big deal for a jackal or something, you know, to tear you up or some shit. It's always real strange how people can't see that this shit was written for a purpose, for a specific time. And you have to understand that. You have to understand it was written for, and the purpose was to bring unity to small groups of people, to unify them into larger units. So anyway, there was a question that Afro Native World had, but I'm not going to get into it for time's sake, but I do think it's a good question. It's something along the lines of, what does it all matter if Joe still decided to marry outside of his race type thing? But we could discuss that at some other venue. I want to move on to the next topic. Shout out to Zuli in the chat. Zuli, come on up, because I think you're going to like this next one. Should read topic number 4 tonight. It says, disgraceful black kangs or righteous human rights defenders. This came with a link. Let me share it with you guys. It's like a Nefakari video, so we'll listen to it and then we'll discuss.
God. Back again with another episode of The Black Man Kissing the Boots of the Arabs. Back again, man. Back again. Now, today we're going to be talking about Kenya. We're going to be flying to Kenya. Now, apparently, either it was yesterday or the other day, there was a protest in Kenya on behalf of the Palestinians, the black men in Kenya advocating on behalf of the Palestinians, right? And apparently some of the protesters were injured because the police started going upside their head, started cracking them upside the head, you know what I mean? Telling them, go home, man, stop wasting your time. And I'm going to play the clip and I'm going to come back on my commentary. Let's go.
Human rights activists in Kenya who held a protest in solidarity with Palestinians on Thursday were hit with tear gas by police in Nairobi. The protest in the Kenyan capital, which reportedly had been given permission via permit, was dispersed by police and some of the activists were arrested.
Today was supposed to be a peaceful solidarity march, and yet there was a permit that circulated, at least in the poster for this protest, and we expected it to be a very peaceful affair where we show our solidarity, but what we have experienced today we feel it was unfair. Like we were targeted with tear gas and threatening by the police, and some of our colleagues have been arrested.
Now listen, man. Police brutality is wrong. I understand. But sometimes you got to knock some sense into the mind of the black man. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the black man be embarrassing himself, because I just got to ask the question. Does the black man in Kenya not have any pressing issues that have to do with his own people? Does the black man in Kenya not have anything on the top of his agenda that has to do with his own economic or political interests, right? The Palestinians going toe-to-toe with the Israelis, cool. But last time I checked, the British military currently has a permanent installation on Kenyan territory. Is that not worthy of the black man in Kenya rising up and taking to the streets? Last time I checked, when women from Kenya go to the Arab world for economic opportunities, don't they constantly complain of the constant abuse at the hands of Arab men? Last time I checked. But the black man in Kenya, you're not taking to the streets for that. You're going to take to the streets on behalf of a goddamn Arab. Man, listen, man, like I said, police brutality is wrong, but sometimes you got to knock some sense into the mind of the black man. You got to take your police club and knock some sense and intelligence into the cerebellum of the black man. Because just like I told the South Africans, you talking about you advocating on behalf of the Palestinians, but you ain't even advocating for the black men on the continent. For example, just last month, we spoke about how there was a black man from Tanzania, right? A black man from Tanzania, a young kid from Tanzania, 21 years old. He went over to Israel. I believe he went to study agriculture, right? I believe he went on a student visa. And then obviously when the Arabs came through, all militant, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we got footage of the young homie getting blown away. You know what I'm saying? They had him on the floor, laid out, blew him away for no reason, right? But did the black man in Kenya advocate on the behalf of his fellow East African brother? Did he or did he not? Nobody even cared about that. I was the only one talking about that on YouTube. Nobody gave a fuck about that. But you want to advocate on behalf of the Arab to where whenever you women go over to the Arab countries, they get smacked up, they get abused, they sleep on the floor, they get killed. But you don't give a fuck about that, though. You don't care about that. You got the British military, like I said, has a permanent installation in Kenya. You don't care about that, though. The British military was inside Kenya, was in Kenya, killing black women. But y'all don't care about that, though. Y'all don't care about that. The British still got the installation, still to this day. But y'all don't care about that. Y'all don't care about that. Man, listen. Salute to the police, man. Salute to the police. Because sometimes, like I said, you got to knock some sense into the cerebellum of the black man. You want to advocate on behalf of the Arabs? You want to advocate on behalf of the Palestinians? That's fine. But just advocate on behalf of your own people first. Advocate on behalf of your own interests first. You want to advocate on behalf of the Arabs all the way in the Middle East, but your own brother next door in Tanzania get killed and you don't even say a word. You don't even say a word. You don't even put out a tweet. You don't even put out a statement. Nothing. Niggas don't even say nothing. The black man get killed. Nobody say nothing. The Arab man get killed. Oh my God. You niggas camping outside the embassy like goofies. Man, listen, man. Listen, man. Shout out to the honorable policemen in Kenya. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to them. You know, y'all very corrupt. I heard a lot of corrupt stories about the policemen in Kenya, but on this time, nigga, I'm standing with the police. I stand with the police. Because when you put the interest of another man before the interest of your own people or the interest of your cousin next door, listen, sometimes a police club to the head is well deserved. When you put the interest of the Arab man before the interest of the black man, sometimes the tear gas is appropriate. I'm sorry. Sometimes you need a little, a police club outside the back of the head, some tear gas in your eyes. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's well deserved. Sometimes it's well deserved because you're causing a commotion for no goddamn reason. I can understand if you're advocating on behalf of the women of your own country, the men of your own country, the men of your own race, the women of your own race. But once you advocate for a race of men who constantly abuse your women out in the open with no consequences, listen, man, call the police, man. Call the police, tell the crowd disperse. You know what I'm saying? Call the police, tell the crowd disperse immediately. Because me personally, I cannot respect it. I'm telling you, if the black men in Kenya are gonna take to the streets to advocate for anything, at least advocate for the British military to evacuate from the premises first. After the death of Agnes Wanjiru back in 2012, bro, there should not be a single British military serviceman remaining on Kenyan soil, right? If you're going to take to the streets, advocate on behalf of your own people first, your own women first, right? But you want to advocate, man, listen, man, take a look up on the screen, man. The murder of Agnes Wanjiru was carried out in 2012. Wanjiru's body was discovered in a septic tank of a hotel 2 months after she disappeared. Wanjiru entered the hotel with British soldiers, and the murder was widely covered in the British press after the contents of a WhatsApp group chat involving soldiers of the Duke of Lancaster's regiment were leaked to the press, showing some of the soldiers accused of murdering Wanjiru, mocking her death with memes related to murder, hotels, and septic tanks. Over the years, British soldiers deployed for training have been involved in criminal acts, which have attracted media attention in both Britain and Kenya. Allegations in court cases have included murder, brawls, sexual assault, and alleged child kidnapping, environmental damage, fatal hit and runs, and sexual exploitation of Kenyan women. Now, this is why I cannot respect any black man trying to take a revolutionary stance on behalf of Palestine, because you won't even take an honorable stance on behalf of your own people, bro. You won't even confront the enemy man, stop. Please stop. Stop acting like you big and bad on behalf of the Arab, but when it comes to your own people, you a bitch. Now, like I said, this is not an indictment on all black men in Kenya, because I know it's some black men in Kenya that are solid. They understand what's going on. They're not over here tap dancing for the Arabs. They understand how the world operates, right? But like I said before, when you got your own issues, going on inside the house, bro, why are you worried about what's happening across the street? Why do you feel more solidarity and connection with the Arabs than you do for the Tanzanian brother who got killed by the Arabs? I don't understand it. If you're going to take to the streets, you're going to camp outside the embassy, you're going to make a commotion. Why are you not advocating on behalf of your fellow East African man? Why are you advocating on behalf of the uses your East African women? And don't even get me started on them British soldiers, because like I said, British soldiers have went to Kenya and eliminated Kenyan women, have erased them from existence, and they can still go to Kenya with no fear. British men, you go to Kenya, British men in Kenya having a good old time, living with no fear. But you want to act big and bad on behalf of the Arab, man. Stop. Nobody believe in that shit. Man, listen, if you're not going to act big and bad on behalf of your own brother, on behalf of your own women, I'm not trying to hear it. If you're not going to go equally as hard on behalf of your own brother, I don't give a fuck what you're talking about. Now, anyways, man, it's your boy Nefercard. That's Celine back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen. And I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left. Just want to point out that, I'm seeing comments about Neferkari and how he talks and stuff like that. I just want to point out the young Haitian brother, and he and Azuli talk just alike. When I listen to this young guy here, it's the same I could bet you his background is just like Erzuli's in terms of coming to America and stuff like that. But they talk just alike. So I just want to point that out. I know Black Steel has been champing at the bit here. Let's start Black Steel. Black Steel, what say you this?
Man, a little bit of learning is dangerous, boy. Let me explain. First of all, he sounds like the white people in the U.S. who say that Black people get mad when police kill Black people, but we don't do anything about the violence in our communities when it's done by another Black person. First of all, that's not true. But what he did, he kind of, what they do, they cherry pick certain things. We don't know that these people don't argue or protest what's going on against people in Kenya. But he really just, invented a scenario to kind of talk down on Black people protesting a genocide. Second of all, we have to understand, this is one thing that bothers me with a lot of people. They don't understand how connected the world is. The same forces and institutions, a society that is murdering the Palestinians, probably about 30,000 people have been killed since October. This is the same system that oppresses Black people, the entire world. So one thing I've often made a comparison to is that Israel uses Palestine, it uses Gaza as a weapons laboratory. The technology of repression is worked out on the people of Palestine, and then it is spread throughout the world. So a lot of the surveillance systems, the training, those things are created in Israel to oppress the Palestinians. Once they test it on the Palestinians, then they use it against everybody else in the world. You don't think that the Mossad and Israel developing surveillance cameras and technology isn't used by African dictators on the continent or by the police of the United States? So, of course, we stand in solidarity with Palestinians. Every single Black leader, from Huey P. Newton, Kwame Ture, Nelson Mandela, Thomas, every Black person worth a damn who struggled against oppression understood that the oppression of the Palestinians was important. So I don't know, these guys get on YouTube, they say a couple words, they sound smart, but they don't study, they don't read, they don't know history. They don't understand this. All of these issues are interconnected. And I'm not saying we shouldn't advocate for our people, but we understand that what's happening to them, it has happened to us before. You think the Israelis aren't anti-Black? You don't think that we literally talked about how they sterilize Ethiopian Jews, the Black Ethiopians who come over there, how they treat Black, how the biggest people who steal diamonds from the Congo, one of the biggest diamond processing centers is in Israel. Like, I don't understand. I'm sorry. During the Zionists, when the Zionists were looking for a home, they thought about going to Uganda. So what's happening in Palestine could very well have been happening in Africa, because Palestine was not the first place that the Zionists wanted to go. They talked about going to Madagascar. They talked about going to Uganda. They talking about going to fucking Alaska. They were just looking for a place to put down roots, and they just happened to go to Palestine. So yeah, if you don't understand that this is a system that oppresses all of us, and that this is you want to sit up here and single out different individual issues to get upset about, they have every right to protest Palestine. That's the right thing to do. How we sit up here and watching this just genocide being broadcast in 4K, and you shouldn't care about what's going on across the street. Why? You think they won't bomb you? They won't kill you? Hey, they bomb Black people in the U.S. They bomb Black people in Somalia all the time. So yeah, I support what these people are doing. The interest in the Congo comes before them. Why? Why is it coming before them? Well, are we not all under genocide? Like, to me, it's like you guys, there's a foot stomping on our neck, and you want us to focus on the big toe. Focus on the whole foot. It's all a part. And the thing that bothers me is that our enemies, they understand that. They don't say, well, you were going to oppress the black people over here and we'll do this. No, they all work together. So if our enemies are working together, why is we as a people, why don't we work together? It's silly to me. I let somebody else talk, man. This dude, every time he posts yeah, go ahead.
Before you go back, see, I just want to ask a quick question. Like, so do you disagree with a race first ideology?
No. I've always agreed with the race first ideology. We're black people in an anti-black world. I mean, it would be foolish for me to not believe in a race first ideology. But just like Marcus Garvey did say race first, but he didn't say race only. So yeah, I do believe we got to go about race first. But me wanting for the liberation of our people doesn't mean that when I see other people who are being oppressed, I'm just gonna, well, our issues matter first. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm a little confused by people who are undergoing a genocide, why we shouldn't care about them, especially when these people have been sympathetic to our plight, and especially throughout the history. I mean,
yes. So Afro Native World is asking that question. Do you think Palestinians are our friends or allies?
Palestinians the people of Palestine have always been sympathetic to African people's struggle. Going back to at least the Black Panther Party, Nelson Mandela, when he was in the ANC, I remember he also mentioned how our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians. So Palestinians have always been in sympathy with Black people's struggle across the world. I remember when I went to a protest and they threw out tear gas. And I remember reading something online about using making a makeshift gas mask and using milk to kind of deal with the tear gas. I got it from a Palestinian. So I understood that, it's always been something that we have some solidarity with the Palestinian people. Yeah.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. Let's welcome in our boy, RBG, Real Black Gentleman. How are you this week?
I'm okay. I've been away for a minute, but you know what I'm saying. I saw the topic. I wanted to chime in on it before. You know what I'm saying.
Go ahead. Do you think?
I don't want to say it's complicated, but this is not simple. I get it how Israel plays two-faced in the region. First of all, that has to be said. They always come with a good bad dichotomy where, you know what I'm saying, they do some wicked shit, but they always come with some good stuff. Now, you remember when we were talking about these computer chips with people, right? Now with who was that? It was Epstein. You know what I'm saying? They got something with who was it? Elon Musk. That Neuralink. Well, we're talking about this now. This is the Israelis is in the mix of that. Now, I don't know if you guys realize this. There was experimenting with African people, I think in Kenya. So it like I said, I wish it was simple, but it's not. So like when we sit here and we see Kenyan people are in support, let's say, of Palestine and ostensibly, you know what I'm saying, the opposition to Israel, I see where it is. Now, like I said, I feel like, you know what I'm saying, Israel is good with the information and trying to get underneath people's skin, as it were. They try to play the friend in order to try to, like, kind of, it's favor mongering. You know what I'm saying? They try to, like, get a favor and try to say that, you know what I'm saying, we're doing a favor for you. We're signal virtuing, as it is. So, like, that whole idea of, like, Israel trying to, like, place claim to, like, a homeland in Africa, in that region, they will always use that to say, well, we always was. You know what I mean? We always was. We always was good, And so they'll try to, like, this. I heard a press conference. I want to say it was Netanyahu in Uganda, and they talking about these computerized chips that they want to do and put on Black folks. I know people see this stuff, but you know what I'm saying? It all of a sudden it becomes kind of complicated and people don't know what to say. Look, the world wants to use Africa and the data, you know what I'm saying, the information that black people can use just as a just as another resource. I don't think that, just because, the Palestinians are protesting, I don't necessarily think it's a good thing. Now let me flip it back to the state side. Let me go back stateside. Now for black people, it's never a good thing to have someone necessarily pick one side against the other, because it removes a veneer of of neutrality, which which is blown at this point, because again, they spy on Africa and they know how African people feel about this stuff. I mean, problem is African people, we're very vocal people, we're gonna make noise. Problem is with that, other people gonna decipher that noise. So it's like we can't, trying to like keep the raps on how we feel about it. I think if African people are accepting any kind of thing from Israel, it's because they're being put in a bind between the United States and Israel, as it were. There's a lot where it's like I see, I'm not necessarily pro Palestine. I'm not like in support. I do see how Hamas was being funded by Israel, which makes it seem like there's no two sides. It's there is the Palestinian people that were being, but at the same time, it's like that relationship I'm not aware of because I'm not on the inside. I could see here and say maybe Palestine dropped the ball and they kind of let loose, and they've been backsliding ever since because they kind of want Israel's help. Because, like I said, Israel's two-faced. They're going to play with the good cop, bad cop thing. It's simple, but it's not so simple. You know what I'm saying? There's 80 different types of Jews. Well, which type of Jews is running Israel and causing the problems? You know what I'm saying? Is the Hamas that killed, the Palestinian, was they funded by Israel? You know what I'm saying? Who are these so-called Palestinian Hamas people? Is they just Israeli agents that just cosplayed as Hamas? These people jumped out of planes. Hamas ain't got plane money. How you going to identify yourself? See, how you going to get the money? See, you people ask questions, but they're not asking the question after the question after the question in their own head. You know what I'm saying? Everything don't have to be spelled out. It's like, my thing is like, look, man, like Steve was saying, like Israel training, you know what I'm saying? What does that do to the United States? Just gives, all these mostly white people who want to have control or whatever, have some kind of dominance over something, more leverage. So then the United States can have plausible deniability to be like, well, it have nothing to do with us. You know what I'm saying? It's just the police. It's like all the backhanded deals, the deals that they do but don't tell no one about. There's a lot of that in America. They'll do stuff and they're supposed to tell you, but you know what I'm saying? They'll write it down on paper or put it on a website. They'll never like make it front street that this is what we're doing. Because again, it's that duplicitous stuff. Look, I'm running on, like I said, it's easy, but it's not so simple. You know what I'm saying? Like the state don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Kenny don't want to necessarily like tip their hand necessarily and like give a cent, because of course Israel's going to look at that and be like, well, you let them guys protest it. It's a dirty game. I'm gonna pass the mic.
Appreciate that, RBG. Let's go to Kofi the Black. Should be solving number 4 says disgraceful black kings or righteous human rights defenders. What say you, Kofi?
I mean, I agree with a little bit with what everybody kind of had to say. I don't know where to start. Basically, I understand where where he was saying in that video. It's basically like, hey, look, make sure your whole house is in order before you worry about someone else's house, right? So when someone asks in the chat, asks the question, "Are you race first?" It makes sense. Now, I understand why South Africa, went to the world court saying, "Hey, look, these people need to be tried for genocide," because it has all the preludes of genocide. As far as the cop, now, I feel Kenya's supposed to be a democracy. It said that they got the permits and everything that they need to do a protest. It's bad that the cops came back and disrupt that protest. That's undemocratic. So I disagree with it right there. Now, if you disagree or not, right? The KKK in this country is a democratic society. They can protest what they want. That's their right. You don't have to agree with the message. So on that hand, that's where I disagree. Hold on one second. There's something going on outside. Yeah. So that's where I disagree. So what's going on? Look, I feel for the people in Palestine and what's going on over there, but I wouldn't go to the extent of protesting like that. You see what I'm trying to say? You can say, look, look, there's and from my point of view, as far as like how racism works in America, right? I feel that most white people in America don't like or like, hey, look, racism is bad. Are they gonna protest at the Black Lives Matter and do a whole bunch of things for black people? No. And I feel we should, as advocates, should say, hey, look, that's bad, that's messed up, whatever. Leave it at that. Going ham and well, we're gonna go take time out of our Black Day to protest some other people that got nothing to do with us when we got bigger fish to fry that affect us directly. I think it's a waste of time. It's a misuse of time. As far as I mean, I got kind of pulled into this situation with just with Jewish people because I have some Jewish people and Jewish friends, and it's very, very troubling. So it again, like the other brother said, it's very complicated, but the United States is funding our tax dollars here is taken and given to Israel, right? To occupy the Palestinians that have been doing since the 1920s, right? This is something that's been going on for about 70 years. So it didn't start on October 7th. It started a long time ago. So I understand why South Africa is like, hey, wow, this is a colonial project. This is apartheid. We used to be in that situation, and we're going to call foul on that. That's cool. That's fine at the same time. But as far as the video is concerned, I understand where he's coming from. I know we're all interconnected and stuff like that. But again, what other people fight for black people's rights, take time out their day and fight for black people's rights, knowing they have other fish to fry? It's always black people doing that for other people, right? And that's why we always being used as proxies and things like that. But for now, I'll pass the mic.
Appreciate that, Kofi. Let's hear from Oni on this next.
Oh,
Oni,
sorry,
Mike's
sorry.
muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. Mike's muted. Yeah. So wait, what's going on? Yeah, I kind of don't like when people protest protesters. You know what I mean? I think. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with what they're protesting. Not that I don't agree with it, but it's just what I'm more saying is that if that's what they want to do with their day, like, why is that a problem to you? You know, I see a lot of it more so as like content fishing or like content running low. You know, like a slow day in the news type thing. You know, like if you turn on CNN and they start talking about, oh, dogs are biting people more. It's like, okay, it's a slow day because this is like a non-story. Like we don't know what these activists were doing before that. And sure, maybe some of these activists are just working on behalf of maybe Marxists or something. That's not something to like that's a non-story. You know what I mean? That's a non-story. I don't, and also another thing is that, I completely understand when people are trying to stand in solidarity with, Palestine. I think that's a thing that people do. Uh, Obviously, I would prefer, stories on the Congo, stories on the Sudan, stories on even Libya. You know what I mean? But if you protest, the Palestine, like that's not even like I don't even get like what's the point? You shaming some Kenyan people for doing something that everybody else on the planet is doing. You know what I mean? Like everybody else on the planet is doing it, and I kind of like I'm kind of like I can't really participate with like a lot of black folk. We tend to do that where somebody says something about Palestine and then we just like, yeah, but what are you gonna say something about Congo? Look, if you want people to be talking about the Congo, or you want people to be talking about South Sudan or what have you, just do it. What are you complaining about other people talking about something instead of you just talking about the thing you wish people were talking about? Because what other people are doing is they're talking about what they wish other people were talking about. Because even if we say, oh yeah, you know, this stuff that's happening in Palestine, you know, they only talk about it because, you know, they're Palestinians or because they're white. You know what? Real talk. This shit been going on for decades. And a lot of times, nobody's talking about it. Like this shit happened last year. The same shit happened last year. The same shit happened the year before. Nobody was talking about it. You know? And there were people probably then, you know, saying, why y'all talking about Sudan when y'all could be talking about this issue in Palestine? You know, the reality is that, you know, for some reason it's their moment for, you know, for whatever. I mean, partly because they stood up and, you know, took care of business, right? I shouldn't say that, but you know what I'm saying, right? Partly because they stood up and did some shit, right? But the reality is this: you can't keep this sounds more like jealousy. You know what I mean? Oh, why are you not talking about my issue? Why are you not talking about it? Like here's another question, Neferkari. I don't mean to direct it to him. I'm just saying, why are you talking about what the Kenyans are protesting, and why are you not protesting about Haiti? Like it's very easy for somebody to sit back and just complain about what another man's doing and look at their background and say, why you ain't talking about this shit? Because it's like I don't have no time to be, you know, like imagine me making a whole video talking about, yo, Neferkari's talking about these protesters in Kenya, but he should be talking about what's going on in Haiti. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, I wouldn't say that. And I think, you know, we as men really can't be on that kind of time where we're just talking about what other people are talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't just be instead, you got to say to yourself, what do I want to be talking about? And consistently talk about that. You know, one thing I do on social media, I try to avoid those, you know, celebrity gossip. Sometimes I get caught up. I ain't gonna hold you, right? Because it's hard to avoid it. But I always try to talk about what I want to talk about. So just the other day, I was talking about premarital sex and parsimony. You know, spending your money well, right? I'm trying to talk about spending your money well and stuff, right? And nobody else is talking about that shit. But you have to, at some point, set your own topic. So I think I see Trigger Happy saying, Neferkari talks about West African politics, Haiti too. Yeah, I mean, of course, but my thing is this: you can't be complaining about another dude or what other people are doing with their time. You should be fixing yourself on what you're doing with your time. The trouble that we have is that we love complaining about other people instead of doing what we need to be doing. That's it. And it's okay. Like, occasionally, yeah, you could complain or what have you, but like, realistically, I'm saying this as as men, right? Because this is nice brother on Twitter. I can't remember the handle. I think it's like JP World or something like that. But nice brother on Twitter. He sent me the story he's writing, and of the story, he's talking about black men going through initiation, and he's like, when you are a black man and you undergo initiation, one of the things that you do is you start listening to the women and children and the old elderly and all that kind of stuff. You listen to the other people in the community and try to fix their problems. You know? And we as black men have forgotten that we are here to fix the problems in the community. And sure, you could hand wave. One of the problems in the community is that these people are protesting, Palestine. That's not a real problem. Activists do activist shit. Okay? Activists do activist shit. That's what they do. If you have ever been a part of any sort of political movement, any sort of movement, you were around and surrounded by activists. Y'all, you know what y'all did. You know what they did. You know? Rah, 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 rah. Any sort of issue. Leave them alone. At some point, you got to grow up and say, you know what? You're young. You could stand outside and wave, whatever. But we as men have to start saying, how are we going to solve some problems? And sometimes you can't, as men, focus on the distractions.
Goodness, man. Only let me go, man, because I mean, oh goodness, man, you are dropping freaking jewels. But this is only at its best, by the way. I'm gonna just throw you out of the window because Kingston, you said enough. But only said something in terms of being men and problem solving. We as men, we are absolutely here to problem solve. Absolutely. I mean, only hit the nail on his head. If you are complaining, but you have to be also be able to be at the other end of problem solving as well. I have issues with the Kenyan government. I have issues with my Kenyan brothers. You know why I have issues with my Kenyan brothers? My Kenyan brothers, in terms of their government, they want to go to Haiti and so-called bring law and order to Haiti. I have big issues with that. I'm like, bro, you can't come in the Caribbean talking about you want to restore law and order when you ain't fixed Kenya yet. So I have big issues. I am a humanitarian. I understand what Black Steel was saying earlier. I don't want to see human beings being harmed unjustly. I really don't. So in terms of genocide, I don't want to see the Palestinian genocide. Of course not. However, the Haitians are my neighbors. When you see the Haitian people, my Haitian brothers eating bonbon de terre, earth cookies or earth candy, what you all consider to be dirt, you know, that's another form of being genocided too. Because if you are a human being and having to resort to eating bonbon de terre, dirt cookies or dirt candy, that's basically saying you have no food, nutritious food to eat. So now they have a reasonable justification. So, well, you have nutrients in the dirt. Justifying the fact that these people have been relegated to the fact that resorted to the fact that they have to eat these kinds of things to survive. That's another form of genocide. So now I have to pick my battle to say who, well, you don't have to pick, but which group of people you have to fight for first. I have to fight for my neighbors first and foremost. The people who look like me, race. And I see them harsh. But even in hospitals, they practice what they call triage. Triage in hospitals mean that you have to pick the patient who least likely is gonna die. So I am from the perspective of these people. I have to figure out and try to resolve the problems. What's going on with my neighbors in Haiti? How to resolve that problem? The Kenyan government want to come to so-called be the law and order kinds of people. That's like no way, because you're all trying to do what the Jews trying to do to Palestine. We ain't gonna have that work here. You know what I mean? We trying to problem solve in our countries. So I am betwixt and between, because I understand the genocide situations happening in Palestine, but I also understand the genocide situations happening in Haiti too. People don't want to talk about that. They call it anything besides genocide. But the Western, other countries are creating these kinds of genocide kind of situations, but they calling it something else. You know what I mean? They calling it something else. Needless to say, I am, like I said, I am a humanitarian. I don't want our people to be harmed. I don't want no person to be harmed. But if I was to pick a battle, of course I'm gonna pick the battle that's closest to me. Of course, naturally. But as Oni was saying, we are here to be problem solvers. As men, we should problem solve, and try to figure out the best situations, and then involve ourselves where we could make an impact. For me, the Palestine issue is too far removed from me. I have to deal with the issues that's closest to me. And the issues that's closest to me right now is the people who look just like me. Right there, they are my neighbors. They are my neighbors, and they are closest to the most. They are closer to the most wealthiest country on the face of the planet. So my job now is to try to see if I can galvanize people who live in the wealthiest place on the planet to involve themselves on the so-called poorest place on the planet and deal with those issues first. But needless to say, I like I say, I understand the issue. And like I say, I understand the issues. The issues are vast and very complicated and complex. But when you break things down to its the most minimal form possible, We are here to be problem solvers, and I have to deal with the issues that's in front of me, closest to me, first and foremost. Then I'll deal with you after the fact, But I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there.
Well, I want to say, Buana, because I know you're not in the United States. As somebody who lives in the heart of the empire, the heart of the imperial core, United States is a great force of evil and disruption in the world. So because I know, even though I don't want to say I'm a U.S. citizen. I would say I'm a subject of the American empire, because Black people were not brought here to be citizens. We're brought here to work. Our existence in this country is fragile at best. But because I live in the United States, and I know the United States is causing Israel couldn't do what it does without the United States assistance. Kenya going to Haiti to enforce whatever rules or whatever bullshit, that was done at the urging of the United States, because they want to put a black face on white power. So I guess, because as someone who lives in this, wretched place, all of these issues are of importance to me, because I know my tax dollars are being used to fund the genocide of Palestinians, genocide in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the genocide in Haiti, the war in Sudan. I've realized that this world is driven by the omnicidal U.S. government, who would rather destroy the planet than lose control over it. They're willing to go to war with China, go to war with Russia. They're willing to fund militias and terrorists who murder people to gain control, to destabilize nations, so that way they won't, potentially pose a threat to their economic dominance. So, as someone who lives in this country, all these issues are important in my heart, because I feel like, and I think many times African Americans have kind of lost the lead on this, but it used to be a point where we were the main ones speaking out against U.S. imperialism. It's a shame what one Black president will do, but I think we were some of the first ones to speak out against the what this government was doing to other people of color across the world, not just in Palestine, but in the Caribbean and Africa and across the world. And I think maybe we kind of lost sight of that over time. But all of these, to me, in my mind, because we here in the heart of empire, we have an obligation to fight harder for our brothers and sisters across the world. African people first, of course, but not African people only. I think that, well, those of them that have held solidarity with us in the past, I think we should support them. Those of us who haven't, fuck them. But yeah, it's important to understand this is all one big monster. I mean, the NYPD has an office in fucking Jerusalem. Why? They're getting training and support from them. If our enemies get training and support from each other, I think that we have to understand where we're coming from as a people who are under genocide, under oppression, and we have to organize and unite with our allies. I don't think that those people in Kenya were wrong for supporting Palestine. What was wrong with that? I don't know this dude, but every time he has a take, I hate it. I hate his voice. I don't know. What
No,
it looks like.
not Black Steel. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with them supporting the Palestinians. Nothing wrong. But support Haiti too. Why you coming there? If you, I don't understand it. It's like y'all got not see the individuals on the street. I understand that there's a separation between the individuals on the street and the government, but from the outside world, it looks like, okay, you have heart for the Palestinians, but you want to invade Haiti. What's the deal? Support the Haitians too, and don't try to invade them at the behest of the fucking Western powers.
And I think that's good that the Haitian I think it was Congress in Kenya shut that down, so that they weren't going to send any troops. A lot of these African governments are beholden to the power of the United States. And that's kind of why I'm not so big on repatriation the way only is, because these crackers run these countries too. You just don't see them. They couldn't get military bases in Africa without the permission of the African governments. Africa is the most sanctioned continent in the world. Africa has more sanctions than any other continent. They can't destroy your government. If they can't destroy your economy, they can make your economy scream if they want to. So I think that these African nations are really under the thumb of U.S. imperialism, and we got to fight no matter where we are.
I appreciate that, Black Steel. I'll say I agree with what Bakari is saying here. African people only. Nobody ever, and I mean nobody ever, stood in solidarity with African people. That's Palestine's problem. Afro-Palestine people get treated like crap. I want to say something.
That's just not true. That's incorrect.
Afro-Palestinian people don't get treated like crap?
By other Palestinians? No, they don't. That's just people. You know what? I'm really, really cautious about people spreading this whole Palestinians hate black people crap. That's real deal crap. I'm sorry.
So let me ask you a real quick question, right? If we understand geography, so if we see where Palestine is and Gaza is and Israel is, right? And we know historically that is African land, right? So if they were, let's say, some for future, and we, Africans get Egypt back, right? Because south of Gaza and Israel is Egypt. Let's say for some reason all black people get North Africa back, which is not under our control due to the Arab invasion, nothing but Arabs. The Levant region north of Egypt also belongs to Africa. Would you think that those Palestinians will have no problem, since they're the ones that, hey, look, I know what it's like to be occupied and have land that doesn't belong to you? All of that land is African land. Do you think that they would be, I know it's hypothetical, but would you think they'll have no problem being ruled by an African nation, or give some type of some type of money or something like that to be on our land?
Hypothetically speaking, I mean, I don't think if Palestine was controlled by African people, I believe that as long as those people didn't genocide them, force them into concentration camps, deprive them of their land, I don't think they have a problem with it. I think African people have always been able to coexist with other people. I think that's one of our downfalls, actually, that we've always been xenophilic, xenophobic. We've always been able to coexist. It's the other people who can't coexist with us. So I think as long as the African people weren't bombing them and killing their children, they wouldn't have a problem, hypothetically speaking.
Yeah, but that's like my fear. Like, am I, again, I don't want to displace people. I mean, they've been living there for thousands of years, but what right is wrong is wrong. Marcus Garvey says Africa for the Africa, Europe for the European. So that's why, I mean, I'm not saying black people are not supposed to owe reparations, but if you understand the history of reparations and what real justice is, United States white man justice is like, okay, I took 100% of your land. Let me give you 5% of the land and put you on reservations, and I'll give you a tax break. To them, that's justice. But if you all know, what's the reason why Europeans came to America? Because they were resource poor. They were resource poor. They came over here. They came here with nothing. So for you to get any type of justice back, they will have to give all of North America back. Europe is not going to do that. The Arabs are not going to do that. We're talking about people who had nothing, right? So I know it's a hypothetical question, but if we know and we learn from history, there again, you're right. We also live this. That's one of our downfalls. That's not what Dr. Clark said again. He said the beautiful thing about African people is also due to our detriment, and that's our humanity. But we see humanity in other people that don't see us the same way. So yeah.
I have two more people to speak on this topic, so I will ask you guys not to interrupt them. Let them speak their piece, and then afterwards, any last thoughts, you guys can give your last thoughts, all right? First is Bakari. The anchor is going to wait for a second, but Bakari, how are you this week?
I'm great, man. How about you? People in the chat and other folks on the panel. Look, this I think blacks still need to look up what black people from Palestine say about how they're treated by Palestine. I have no idea why black people have such an infinity for other people who don't give a damn about them. They have an infinity for the so-called, for the Native Americans here, an infinity for the damn Palestinians. Somebody was living on that land before them Arabs called Palestinians went to that land. They took that land from somebody. I don't know who the people were. I believe they were African people. The Palestinians took that land from somebody. And now I'm going to stay on this land and I'm going to keep it, right? And we going to say, oh, they ain't getting treated bad. But then you will turn around and say the Native Americans getting treated bad. No, but if the Native Americans getting treated bad, them Africans in Palestine getting treated bad. Now I'm gonna just, because I ain't gonna be on here long, I'm gonna say this, then I'm probably gonna just listen and get off. But what the other guy he was talking about, I don't even remember what the hypothetical question was, but he was talking about giving something. I'm gonna tell you something. I wouldn't give you nothing either. If I can steal your stuff or take your stuff and flaunt it right in your face and say it's mine, why the hell would I turn around and give you something? Yeah, you're right. I would do what the white folks did to the Native Americans. I'll give them that little piece of rock where they can't grow nothing, where they got to come beg. Why am I going to take your stuff, then turn around and say, I'm going to give you some stuff? Shit, if they know you ain't going to fight for it, and when it comes to African people, don't seem like we really ready to do that without trying to depend on other people to do it for you. We want to create false allies. Ain't none. Because if those people were your allies, they've been your allies and they cared all this time. black folks and other folks wouldn't be going through this. Everybody else care about themselves. But for some strange reason, and I don't think it's just because our humanity. Because if we look at the way we treat ourselves sometimes, where's the humanity when it comes to us? I think it's fear, especially when dealing with Arabs and white folks. It's fear that make us act the way that we act. In fear throughout history, fear has been the greatest controller of anything you can think of. It was greater than religion. You go back and study why you think Mongolia, why you think they controlled so much? They weren't forcing a religion on nobody. They controlled out of fear because of what they could do. Now, if you've been beat, whipped, hung, house set on fire in front of everybody, fear. Where the whole world can see it, the fear has set in. What has happened to African people over there, the fear has set in. Now the Kenyans going over there talking about Palestine. That's I don't know. They looking for a friend. Now, if some black folks choose to say they care about Palestine and want to go help Palestine, that's their business. It's not my business and it's not my fight. But where were those Palestinian people at talking about the guy that called that police on George Floyd and had somebody kneel on his neck for 9 seconds? See, we'll give everybody else a pass, but black folk, see, I give a black. They say, what he said? What? All black folks don't need to be defended. See, I defend black folks. I ain't defending them Arabs. So if anybody gonna get a pass, if black people gonna give somebody a pass, seem like a pass should go to black people, but we tend to give them to everybody else. I'm done.
Appreciate that, Bakari. Thanks for coming through. Guys, make sure to check out Bakari's channel. He does the Black Business Challenge. He put up a couple videos yesterday, so check those out. Check out his channel. Last but not least, Zuli, you heard everything everyone else had to say. You saw what they said in the chat. The floor is yours. We're going to end at 11, so you have a few minutes to talk. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon. Good night. I feel like this is such a disappointment that we as black men think that it's okay. We look at the conflict between South Africa and the Nigerians that are coming there. They want to kill them. They have killed a couple of Nigerians. Any black Africans that come into South Africa, they got smoke for them. Kenya goes to the Congo. The Congo is in disarray. They got guns. They got everything for those people. Kenya wants to come to Haiti to protect, under the guise of protect. They got smoked. Haitians been going through a lot of shit. Some of the Caribbean have supported, but a lot of other black countries don't go help Haiti. But now you mean to tell me your own people in Africa are being brutalized? Your own people, Africa's the richest country in the world, richest continent in the world, so they say, and the poorest at the same time. But you have time to protest. That's not only Kenya's doing it. I saw Belize doing it. I saw other Caribbean countries doing it. South Africa doing it. Meanwhile, you're beating your own men. You're beating your own women. You're not providing economic channels to help your people be self-dependent, self-reliant. And then you think you deserve kudos for that? If you can't love your own, how could you love another race? Are you doing this out of some bullshit? How could you love other people and not love your own race, bro? How could you defend other people and don't defend? Let's say, I think Buana said something. Maybe it's not being publicized, but they sure publicize you guys protesting on behalf of the Palestinians. We're not saying here that another country, another group of people going through trials and tribulation is okay. But why are you not taking care of your own people of home? I don't understand. And for some people to say that, why is a man criticizing another man? Aren't we doing this every Saturday on Shoot the Breeze? Aren't we criticizing certain countries, black people, different people? So Neferkari Dessalines can't do the same thing? What are we talking about? Are we men? So, and I'm not. We are here talking about. Me as a person from the Caribbean. When these people, Arabs, come to the Caribbean, they deal like they take over the neighborhood. They take over the economy. They take everything over when they come to the Caribbean. When they came in as indentured servants in the Caribbean, but now they're ruling all the Caribbean countries, the Syrians and Haiti, they're high class. The Indians, when they went to Trinidad, to Grenada and all of that, the Chinese people, they come there and become first-class citizens while your people are there, are third-class citizens. So Neferkari Dessalines is not saying that, you shouldn't fight injustice everywhere. What he's saying is that take care of your freaking home first. Take care of your own women first. Take care of your children first. They got children in the Congo dying, but you want to protest. You think the Palestinian men will have their kids dying, their women being destroyed? You think they have time right now to go protest for the genocide that's going on in the Congo? Why are they not doing that at the same time? Because they're taking care of home. But you Negroes. Oh no, let's protest. Let's be in. This is crazy. And then people are mad, and then we wondering why everywhere we go they got a foot about an ass and foot on our necks. How could you be and then I'm not, and when I'm going to Kenya, those people that are protesting in Kenya, they don't know better. But it's who put the battery in their back and had them protesting outside? Probably the government. You ready to go all the way across the continent to go to Haiti? You ready to go to the Congo? How come you're not ready to go to South Africa and tell them stop killing other Africans that are coming into the country. I saw, and it's not only them, Belize were protesting for them too. I didn't see none of those Belize country protesting when the Dominicans were killing Haitians 3 or 4 years ago. I didn't see Kenya out there. And this is the thing. This is serious. We got to stop blaming these other races for our problem because we are weak. For somebody to, oh, how could this guy be criticizing somebody for protesting? Take care of home. When you finish taking care of home, then you take care. If you want to, then you go over there and be like, no, you can't do this. Nobody's here. I don't even think Nefertari Dessalines is talking about, oh, it's okay to let other people from different races go to trouble and die. No, we're not saying that. But come on. This is a disgrace. Black men are falling and they're not getting up because they're too busy chasing tail or other shit. Kenya is supposed to be the top country in Africa. But yet, the Congo's right there. You go into the Congo, you're doing the same thing that you claim that you're against. You want to come in Haiti and do the same thing. No. And Nefertari Dessalines showed you other people that were that other black people that got killed going over there. When the Mau Mau soldiers were fighting against those people, against what? Well, yo, bro. All I'm saying is, it's okay to be righteous and human right to defend other human rights, but if you're not taking care of home, are you really a human right activist? Activist? If you don't love your own people, how could you love other people? If you're a man, you can't protect if you're a group of men in a nation, you can't protect the nation, the kids of a nation, the women of a nation. What are we doing? This is a disgrace. And for people to be like, oh, this guy Nefertari Dessalines is this and that. And if you listen to him talk, he goes after everybody. He goes after the Haitian the government when they F up. He go after this. He goes after that. So to me, it's great to be a human rights activist, but when you don't defend your own shit that's going on your own, creating economic channels for your people to thrive, you there selling out your own people for cheap coins, but now you're in the street protesting. I think that's disgraceful. But that's all I have to say.
So I'm going to open it up for any last thoughts before we do the shout outs. We're over time now, so keep it brief so we could also get to the shout outs for this week. Whoever wants to go first can speak up now.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say to Erzuli's point, realistically, I mean, it's like this. You want us to take care of home, right? And I agree with that. But when you say take care of home, who do you mean should take care of home, right? And what I mean by who do you mean, are you relying on these Marxists who are protesting the treatment of Palestinians, or are you saying we should take care of home? Because if you're saying we should take care of our home, right, who gives a shit what the Marxists in Kenya are doing? You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying about it. Don't matter if, you know, the Marxists feel a certain way, or if the Christians feel a certain way, or the Jews or the Muslims, whatever, you know, African, whatever. It doesn't matter what people are thinking. What matters is, what are you thinking and what are you doing about it? Right? Because people can be wrong. You know, I just said, hey, look, like I just said, there's no afterlife, right? Another man could say there is an afterlife. One of us is wrong, and that's okay. But the question becomes, well, if we're serious about the Congo, we're serious about the Sudan, we're serious about Haiti, right? What are we going to be doing about it, right? And if what we're doing is basically saying, hey, look, I found some random video of, or some random news story about some Kenyans getting their butt kicked for protest in Palestine, that's not enough. That's all I'm gonna say.
I wouldn't. I do. I don't want to leave it on the somber note that the black man has fallen and the black man. Of course, everyone knows in the world what happened to the Western. Well, was happening currently, but it's not to suggest that there are pockets of men who are productive, who are doing things to change the narrative on a daily basis. I think that there are. I think that with us, we harp on uh, I sounded like somebody now. But we hop on the negative a lot of the times, but there are also pockets that exist in the world where you see black men are throwing the jobs, who are doing certain things in the world to make this world better, not only for themselves but their own families and their own and the black race at large. What about that conversation? You know, you can't just leave it to the narrative that the black man has fallen and he is useless and forget about him. Because there are other narratives that I am one of those black men. Let me put myself to that. And if you are not, maybe you should become that kind of a character and create a different narrative in the world. Because even if everybody carries the sentiment that a black man is nothing, well, I know since my ancestors tell me the world is based off of bluff. Of course, they can tell me I'm the worst. It's for me to believe that, to carry out a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't believe I'm the worst. Every situation and institution I've been in any academic form, I always find myself at the top of the class. I always find so, and there are people who are black men and women who always find themselves at the top of situations. Now, collectively, we have not come in and arrived at that position yet. But it's only a matter of time. Great men can be great again. Of course, our history is interrupted. And there are things that we do in our communities. There are things that we have done in our countries and look backwards. But it could take some time to get back to the top again because our history has been interrupted, horribly interrupted. You can't speak of a people right now and say this is who the people are. Because if my history extends into the hundreds of thousands of years and you're only looking at this particular period, of course you can have a wrong analysis. My history extends beyond beyond time, beyond so-called human time, so they say. You know, when the clock starts. So we are at this point not right now, but we are doing things actively. I am doing things actively right now to make changes, and so are people who think just like me. And the challenge is for you to start thinking like that as well. Because if you think that the black man has no brain, he's useless, what that say for you and what your future is? What that say for you and your futures and your heirs and your successes? I can't say you should leave it there. If the possibility exists that one man can become a thing, you can become two. So the challenge is for you to become that as well. That's the challenge. You know, that's the challenge. And this ain't no fairy tale. Great men can be great again. And if you're great enough to create civilizations and mathematics and all these other things and bring these things to the world, if them people could do it and we associated, they are our ancestors, of course we could do the same thing. And the only reasons why we ain't doing it is because the world is based on bluff. Someone has told a lie and has made us to believe that we can't become these kinds of things. So the challenge is to become it anyways. So I can't believe it. I can't leave it to just that somber note. And I say that the great men can be great again. Absolutely can. But so I'll leave it there until we go on to our positive things that we should say as far as what happened in the week. I'll leave it there for now, Kuku.
Hey, but wanna sound like he been listening. I understand that anything we ever did before, we can do again. And I understand, like, if you constantly say you are nothing, you're never going to be nothing. But I think that's an inferiority complex. I told you that's why certain words I don't use. And I know people argue with me. Well, white supremacy does exist. Okay, I don't believe in white supremacy. So in my mind, it don't exist because it's just a belief. Because I don't have an inferiority complex. So if I constantly say I'm nothing, if I constantly say I can't do something, I would never do it. We have to see ourselves being great. We have to see ourselves being valuable, and that's what I'm and that's what I like to talk about. I saw only put in a chat talking to see we're not gonna find videos and whine and complain about people. Yeah, time is up for that. We can complain about what somebody have done to you, but eventually we're gonna have to look in the mirror and say, what are we gonna do? And anybody that tell me we can't do something, there's no need for them to be around me at all, because I don't believe in that. We can do anything that anybody else has ever done. I know it's hard. I know we've been beat down. I know it might look bad right now. But the reason it's looking bad right now, because we ain't out here in these streets talking to our youth. We ain't out here in these streets doing what we are supposed to be doing as black men. As black men, we're not doing what we're supposed to do. And I'm just being honest, for the majority, we're not. I ain't gonna say we can't, but we don't do what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to protect our communities. Like, we get no respect. Like, we let everybody just come prop up in our community. Anybody can come there. It don't make a difference. They can come and do whatever. Ain't nothing gonna be done. And I know I said this before, and I say it again. When I saw that white motorcycle gang just come pull up in a black neighborhood, and I see so many black men turn their head and look the other way. Like, these people just prop up over here. You know what they are. And there's nobody gonna say nothing. Like, shit, I'm just gonna go over here and I'm gonna support my French because I'm trying to quit cussing. But, like, somebody got to say something. So I got to go over here and I got to question them. And I have to challenge them in the way that they need to be challenged. Like, why are you here? Get down to them. You ain't got to argue and cuss with them. You don't have to do all that. But you can let them know you mean business without doing that. And after 5-minute conversation, they left. We can't be like the dude in Buffalo, go out there and hold a conversation with the white boy. Then the next day, he shoot up all them black people in that grocery store. Think about that. There was a black dude sat there and hold a conversation with him that night. Don't ask him what you doing in our neighborhood, what you looking for. You looking for anybody? None of those questions. Who are you? Why are you here? None of that. So we have to start, if we gonna be men, we gonna have to start taking care of the things that we're supposed to take care of. Now, to this Palestine thing, and I'm gonna say this and I'm out. Like I said, I don't care who want to take up for Palestine. Taking up for Palestine and Arabs and anybody else, if you East Indians, whoever, that's y'all business. But it ain't none of my business. That's their business. What Palestine going through is Palestine problem. Because I said it like I said before. That land that Palestine is on, it was a group of people that owned that land before they ever went there. They went to war and took that land from some people and gave it the name that they wanted it to have. So when we talk, because we so focused, and I saw somebody put in the chat, yeah, but the Jewish flag, they just put the flag, is more powerful than Palestine. So we so focused on white folks and Jews where everybody else can just come treat you like crap and they can get a pass because we only see white people. No, it's everybody is against us. Everybody is against us. Everybody. It ain't just Jews. It ain't just that small group of white people. It's all of the white people. It's all of the Arabs. It's all of everybody else. And until we realize that, and we realize that, man, we got to look out for us. Ain't nobody ever stood in solidarity with black folks. There's been a lot of people that took advantage of black people. But until we realize that and realize we on our own and we got to do stuff on our own, we gonna stay in this position where we at. We gonna grind from the bottom just to stay at the bottom. Peace, man. Thank you for letting me speak. Support black business.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. Anyone else has a last thought here?
Yeah, just to close, I'll try to be short. I agree with what Brother McGuire said. I agree with what everyone had to say. Everyone had a lot to contribute. We more agree than disagree. Two things that Bukhari said. Understand, we have a mental defeatist attitude growing up in the West and things like that. But white supremacy is real. Just because I say it's not real, don't want to say it. It doesn't acknowledge. It doesn't say that I'm superior. White supremacy is the ideology that white people are more superior, and they create these systems that only benefits them. That is a real system. We have to acknowledge that system. At the same time, realizing that it's a false system that is in play, right? To give them benefits, right? So there's that. The thing going on with Palestine, and he was pretty much piggybacking off of what I said, as far as who that land really belongs to. That land really belonged to the Africans. It was taken by Arabs, right? Then you had, to give you a little bit quick history, it was taken by Arabs, right? Which is the Ottoman Empire, which is the Turkish Empire, right? So they had the Ottoman Empire. So when the Ottoman Empire fell, right, Britain took over that whole area, Palestine, so-called Israel. And then after 1948 happened, after World War II happened, they became a state in 1948 through Britain, right? Through Britain. So there was like historical. So they had the Nakba. Nakba was something that when the Ashkenazi Jews. So people say, well, we don't know what type of Jews they are. So there you have the Mizraim Jews, the Sephardic Jews, and you have the Ashkenazi Jews. There's other sub groups of Jews, but those are the three main groups. Zionism was done by the Ashkenazi Jews. So Zionism being a white people thing, and there's no look. Britain is like, wow, we got all this land here, right? But it's surrounded by all these Arab nations. So let's get some white people, some Europeans, and put them in that region. And that's how the Jews were there. The people that we call Jews, those Ashkenazi, European, Germanic Jews, were end up being there in that region, and they started occupying the Palestinians. So that's the history of that. So again, as a human being, I told my Jewish friend this, right? I said, as a human being, my heart breaks what's going on in Palestine, because he's like these new liberal Zionists. Like, they understand when it comes to black people being mistreated, and they understand redlining, they understand police brutality. But when it comes to it happening to black and brown people, right, the Palestinians, it's fuck them. And so these are liberal Zionists. And I told him, like, look, from an African man, I'm an African man. I say, from my African perspective, I don't give a fuck. You all should fucking die. It's not your land. And he went back at it, but he knows that it's not their land. They're fighting over it, right? So again, our perspective should be, hey, look, my heart goes out to them. That's wrong, and it should end right there. I'm not saying we should ignore them, but we should say, hey, that's foul. As people historically that's been mistreated and underrepresented and been under apartheid, we say that's wrong. But to go all crazy over that, no, I wouldn't do that. As far as other subjects we were talking about, as far as the religion aspect, that is, my stance is basically, the same. Black first. It doesn't matter if you're Yoruba, you worship the Orishas, you're Roman Catholic or Muslim, you have to be African first, right? No matter what. And when it comes to that, if I had my way, a litmus test would be pretty much, hey, look, I'm secular. I'm not Jewish. I'm not Hebrew. I'm not Muslim. I'm not Christian. I'd rather have people that are like that, because remember, it's a conflict of interest. So basically, that's all I'm wanting to say there. I'll pass the mic.
All right, that's the show tonight.
Oh, can I speak? Can I speak?
Yeah, keep it brief for me, please.
All right. Just last words. I do think that black people can pull it together. There's just a lot of upheaval. There's a lot of pain, and when people are hurt, sometimes they holler. That doesn't make them weak. That just lets someone else know that I might need some help. That's all that is. You know what I'm saying? With this, I was looking at this like, you know what I'm saying? African getting played on both sides with the Arab and, the KWAZ. So it's like, as long as the leaders recognize, the big picture and are cohesive amongst themselves, whatever, because we're all misguided sometimes, sometimes we support some stuff, ham, and maybe we're not fine-tuned as much as we could be. But, I'm not gonna bash too heavy about the protesters, but I feel where they're coming from. I know what's going on. Like when we talk about, that's our land, like, like for real, like that ain't been like bona fide African land for like, I mean, since the Romans, you know what I'm saying? It's been like 2,500 years where it's like, you know what I'm saying, maybe like 2000, you know what I'm saying? Like let's just keep it in perspective. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, you know what I'm saying, it was the hood, you know what I'm saying, 90 years ago. It's, you know what I'm saying, keep it in perspective. Yeah, that was, you know what I'm saying, historically African land. However, you know what I'm saying, in contemporary times, some things got to be put to the side, and like maybe, you know what I'm saying, if we get a good run at things and, you know what I'm saying, 100 years, we might be able to run through, all else aside. Let's make sure we get some plumbing, you know what I'm saying? African people, you know what I'm saying, making inroads into their construction, you know what I'm saying? That's all I want to say, you know what I'm saying? Always be ready to be on an ideological pivot. You don't want to be stuck on an ideology. Be able to pivot and maybe make a little leap, but make sure you can leap back. Be nimble. That's all I got to say.
Let me say something real quick.
I kind of want to follow with that. So basically, you're saying it's it used to be our land, but it's not land no more. So someone, a white conservative, could say, "Hey, look, slavery was a long time ago. It happened a long time ago. The time has run up on that. Let's just be happy that you're here." Someone could use that same narrative.
Wait. Are you responding to me?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear what I wanted to make sure that like I said, like it's historically ours. Like I said, you know what I'm saying, where African is now, we're talking about the mobilization of African people to reclaim that in a sincere way. Oh, I don't think it's going to happen today, tomorrow, or, you know what I'm saying, in 20 years. But like I said, maybe, like I said, if we get a good roll of things in 100 years, we might be able to roll through, like I said. But like I also just previously immediately said, that's not going to happen tomorrow. Consciousness takes time.
Okay, because it sounds like you were
That's all I
saying,
gotta say.
because you said it's not our land no more since the Romans and all us. That, so it sounded like you were like, say, hey, look, get over it. It hasn't been our land in a long time. So, why fight over it? Or
well, I'll say this. Hey, what about the Nubians? You ask the Nubians, you know what I'm saying, the people closest to that land. You ask them about trying to get their land back. Okay, you take that smoke to them. How about that? They got the proximity to that.
Bro.
Right now, not you know what I'm saying. Right now, that's all. You know what I'm saying. Do not sit here and like swerve my words, because you know what I just said. I mean, I said what I said. I mean, you only got to read into it too much.
Bro, be fucking for real, bro. Be fucking for real. Exactly. Because it sounded like he kind of like disregard. I heard what you said, but again, you were like kind of like straddling the fence. So anyone that says that, hey, any part of Africa doesn't belong to you, or any part of America you shouldn't claim, I just want clarity.
All right, I think RBG gave you the clarity.
Real quick.
Yeah, keep it quick, because y'all can tell I'm trying to end the episode. So please.
Yeah. It's gonna be brief. At the end of the day, it's something that I learned in psychology, and if you go to any motivational speaker, they're gonna be like, how could you really love somebody else if you don't love yourself? How could you be really for humanity if you don't find humanity for yourself? I think you should always fight for yourself first, for your family first. If for your sons first, for your daughters first, for your mothers first, before you fight for another person. You should build your home first. You should learn how to fight first. You should learn how to defend yourself first before you go defend other people. We're not saying that you shouldn't, when injustice somewhere is, you shouldn't point it out. If the Caribbean was strong, if Jamaica, Haiti, Bahamas, Belize, if they were strong, and if the African continent was strong, of course, we would be like, yeah, this is injustice. You can't do that, this and that, and the third. But we're not. So my suggestion is as always, is I know people. Love yourself. As black men, love yourself first. Black women, love yourself first, and then after you build yourself up, then you could go over and start talking. Until then, how could these people even trust you? They're gonna look at you. These people are looking at you. Oh, you're not even defending your own continent. Why should we trust you when you're saying that we are facing injustice? So those people are looking at y'all funny too. You're not defending your continent, your Caribbean area, but you want to defend our. What people are looking at you like you're insane. It's insane for somebody to defend another person's territory while not even defending theirs. So again, man, black people, love yourself first. We love humanity. We should always defend and call out injustice. But yo, black men, black women, black children, elders, we gotta love and fight for ourselves first. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
There's only give a shout out, something positive you saw in the black world before you go.
I saw. Well, I'm gonna say I don't know if people saw. I saw One Love, the Bob Marley thing. It was all right. It was positive. I got to enjoy. Like,
I get it with that one.
Hey, I don't want to. It was all right. The essence of Bob Marley. It brought me not the movie per se, but it brought me back to the man had a song Until. The philosophy of one man, yo, that song is just crazy to me. That's one of the most beautiful songs. Every time I hear it, again, it brings out not only in myself to be like, yo, I gotta love my people, but also to defend injustice everywhere in the world. So, I'm not talking about the movie, but I'm talking about watching it. Especially Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, that brought back. It made me go back to watch, not the movie per se, but because I watched it, I went back to find out about more Peter Tosh, Bob Marley, Bunny Wailer, and all of that. So you look go back and see, damn, yo, brothers been fighting ever since. Brothers been fighting, but it seems that I don't know, but yeah, that's what I have to say.
Sir, excuse me. Only what you want to shout out this week?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm tight, so I ain't got nothing to shout out, man. I got my flight canceled and lost a bunch of money for no damn reason. So I was finna be flexing in Africa, but can't do that. Now I'm just, calling the bank and saying, call the bank, So it is what it is. So I ain't got nothing to shout out. Sorry. This was a depressing week for me. Yeah.
All right. Feel better, I guess. Get well soon. Black Steel, what say you? What do you want to shout out this week?
No month should tell another month to feel better. Fire for that.
So I want to shout out my students for trying to get out of work because it's Black History Month. It's not gonna work. I still need an essay in by Monday. But yeah. Every time I say y'all got something to do, oh, sir, it's Black History Month. You gonna make us work? No, it's not working. But shout out for Black History Month, man. Even though we get the shortest month, it's still important. We don't get our history highlights. Every month is Black History Month, but because it being Frederick Douglass was born in February, Huey P. Newton was born in February, Malcolm X was assassinated in February. A lot of Black history that came forth this month. So shout out Black History Month. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna shout out.
All right, appreciate that. Zuli, Real Black Gentleman, what do you want to shout out this week? All right, RBG, we can't do this every week. All right, you know what, Bakari, what do you want to shout out this week?
Shout out once again, Black Business, man. Y'all check out the film Thursday, performing on Thursday on my channel. That's what I want to shout out. I want to shout out Black Business. I want to shout out beautiful Black women. Shout out to the brothers. And how about this? I'm gonna shout out Black supremacy, because I believe in Black supremacy. It's a mindset. I don't believe in white supremacy. So Black supremacy, that's what I'm gonna shout out. Black supremacy.
That's a good shout out. Appreciate that. Buana, I guess, is the last person because Kofi left. Kofi had stayed to shout out what he had to shout out. But Buana, go ahead.
Don't worry. So I got three things to say. Three things. So shout out to two of my brothers, my wayward brothers. Brother Bakari on one side and Razuli on another. They diametrically opposed to one another. And when they get ready, the both of them is lambase me. But I love them continuously. I don't care what they say. You know what I mean? Even though it's love based me when they get ready. I love them both, and I love the fact that they have different views. I am trying to bring these brothers to the middle where they could see the middle. But I love them both, no matter what. No matter what. I just want to put that out there in the atmosphere, in the universe, to my mouth, to the universe. The second thing is I want to shout out the Bahamas, the Bahamian government, and it's strange. The Bahamian government right now has made a deal with the Ghanaian government to do business. And what they did is now they having Ghanaian nurses come in the country to, I guess, to work to the hospitals down here, and they are forming more closer bonds with the Ghanaian government, Ghana government. And I appreciate that. And let me say respect to Mia Motley, because Mia Motley, the black woman, Mia Motley has seemed to be the person who is leading this whole idea of bringing the Caribbean closer to Africa. So and she make no mistake about it. I know she catch a lot of heat for it. So shout out to her for opening the door for these knucklehead leaders in the Caribbean to walk through, especially the men. So shout out to Mia Motley for opening that door and being revolutionary to create greater bonds with our brothers and sisters on the continent. Shout out to her. Lastly, and most importantly, shout out to my sister, the matron. The matron is waging a revolutionary war right now in reading audio books. Audio books is something that is very important for the future generation, especially when people don't read the print document books anymore. They're more inclined to listen to audio books now. And the books she is reading are extremely difficult to access, in hard copy form. So the fact that she is actually doing this right now and reading and taking the time to do it, I want the men on this planet to support that, especially men with children. Because you don't want to have the future generations just listening to white authors talking about white history and what the greatness, the great things that they would have accomplished in their past. You also want them to access the internet, the digital media in terms of what we would have done in our history and in our past. And the fact that she has taken her time to read these things, to get down almost into the specifics of what we would have done in our history and our past, 30 and 20 years from now, when Kofi children would have grown, they would listen to the voice of matron. When Koku children would have grown, they would have grown up listening to the authors, to the black authors and the stories and the things that they would have heard in terms of what she would have be reading in audiobooks. When Oni child would have grown, she would have listened to the audiobooks from what matron is doing right now, putting that work in. So I want the brothers, on this planet to support that, invest in that thing she is actually doing, even if there's as little money as possible, because audiobooks is something very important in investing for the future of your family specifically. And the things that she would have said right now, they will not be able to access in hard copy format in the future. So I'm saying that invest in that. Give her something for her efforts in contributing in terms of the audiobook world, because it's very important for our children and going forward. I just wanted to put that out there. So shout out to the matron. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate everyone who was involved tonight.
What's her channel, bro? She still has the same channel?
It's our matron. I think I don't.
The revolutionary matron.
It's the same thing.
It's our matron.
Okay.
Yeah. If you look through the chat, she commented earlier. You just click on that and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who participated on the panel in the chat. We'll be back next week. same time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, I put the Discord link in the chat. It's also in the description. If you want to discuss certain topics, join the Discord, post your topics on the Shoot the Breeze, and we'll discuss those too. And then, by the way, if I haven't discussed a topic that you posted, you can always DM me the post. Therefore, I'll bring it back, soon after you bring it to my attention. So Afro Native World posted it in the chat. It is at our matron, like I was saying. So you could click that link and follow the matron. Anyway, until next week, guys, you guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.